And we, Eldar, masters of hindsight, insight, and foresight, are bound that much more tightly to our duty than the ignorant, the belligerent, the blind.
Welcome back, everyone, for a new volume episode of Cult of Lore. Today, we're going to be looking at the Eldar, the space elves, the elf supremacists. Mm-hmm. And with us today is Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
You may recognize Daniel from other shows.
The Weird Shits.
The Weird Shits.
He's a weird shitter.
How we doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good today.
Right.
And Daniel knows next to zero about Warhammer 40K.
Yes.
Nothing.
We've got the drop on him. We bound and tussled him and told him, listen
We
to
strapped
this.
him,
Yeah.
strapped on him. We tied him down.
Tied him down.
It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
But anyway, we thought it would be fun to bring somebody, because these concepts, to us as we're learning these things, these concepts and the way they handle things are absolutely bonkers. And so we thought it would be fun to bring somebody on and traumatize them.
Yeah. Because,
You all know I'm used to that.
Yeah, correct. But today won't actually be a dark episode too much. A little bit. No, I lied. The ending there gets pretty bad.
Right.
But the Eldar are, I think they're finally getting some love from Games Workshop again, which is great, because a lot of people there for a while, when I first started getting into 40K, were actually kind of speculating that they were going to vanish in their entirety and just be written off.
I do remember you talking about that kind of back when you were into Warhammer and I hadn't yet gotten into it.
Right.
I mean, like, why were they going to get written off?
So they just, every once in a while, they'll release like a new codex, which is a rules book and new models for the game, right?
So
and
like updates and stuff like that.
Yeah, and with these codexes also comes update in the lore. Not a lot, but enough to keep their kind of main story progressing. And from what I understand, the Eldar had been skipped for several years.
Yeah, so like Eldar fans were getting worried
that they were getting ready to be dropped because they just hadn't heard anything. Yeah. But I believe that has had to have changed with the Ynnari, which is a cult from the Eldar, and the resurrection of the Primarch.
They're new?
Newish.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Cool.
So we're both new.
Yeah. We covered them just a little bit in our last
Just
volume.
a wee bit.
Yeah.
And we'll end up getting they will no doubt be on later on down the road.
Yeah.
But we're going to start this tale way back to the very beginnings of what is the galaxy.
Yeah. What we know of time basically in the universe.
Yeah, so we don't know what level of intelligence there was in the Milky Way galaxy at this time. Yep. We don't know if there were sentient beings. We just know that there were beings. There were living creatures in this galaxy of ours on different planets. And in comes, so there must have been, because of the Necron tier. They were already there.
Right.
But we'll get to them. So there's this primordial galaxy of ours just hanging around, and in comes this race of beings only known as the Old Ones.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very vague.
Yeah.
Incredibly vague. Incredibly vague. It's so vague that we don't know exactly what these fuckers look like.
Really?
There's no reliable depiction of them.
Right.
Some depictions make them look like tiny little frog things, but the Eldar, the elves themselves, refer to them as beings made out of light. So that doesn't...
So anything between frog people and...
a being of light.
Yeah.
So that's literally...
Anything. Correct. But what we do know about them is that they were so advanced in technology that they were not immortal. They aged and they died, but their lifespans were prolonged beyond any measure.
So
right.
Would that be, what was that? When you die and you come back as something else?
Reincarnation.
So would that be just a very extreme form of that?
Nope.
Okay.
They just were able through science, through technology, to keep themselves alive.
Yeah. Teaser, though, it's interesting that you brought up reincarnation.
Indeed.
Yes.
So what they also did, as seemingly they were peaceful.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
They seemingly were only interested in one thing, and they would go from planet to planet, system to system, galaxy to galaxy, and just spreading life.
Yeah.
Bring milk and cookies and be like, hey, let's be friends. You know, like
They would, well, sort of, they would show up on a planet, whatever planet they landed on, and if they liked or whatever judging mechanism they decided to use, we don't know,
Yeah.
they would take the primitive beings there and genetically enhance them, basically turning a baboon into a person.
Right. Like, so they were doing things to augment. I almost imagine like, oh, you're kind of good at this. Let's bump that up and shore up a couple of your your weaknesses.
And then they would
that.
just leave and let them develop.
Yeah.
And just seed the galaxy with life. That just seemed to be what they were interested in.
Yep.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like it's just in a odd way because it's just still like they're controlling them. I don't know.
They're
They're
interfering.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
They're,
Right.
you're
No,
correct.
right.
They are
Yeah.
artificially manipulating things out of the natural. Sure. That is absolutely true. And while this was happening, there was another race known as the Necron tier.
Yep.
Now, the Necron tier were spacefaring in technology. We know that.
Yep.
But their race had developed incredibly slowly because their planet was orbiting a sun that gave off toxins.
So they were
Like
literally
radiation.
just getting like essentially radiation poisoning from their sun just constantly. Yeah.
And
More
so,
like it's like extreme sunburn at the same time. Like,
Yep.
hey, sorry guys.
yeah. And so their lifespan wasn't very long. And they lived their lives constantly in torment and torture and this painful, sick
It
existence.
sounds like a
Yeah.
dark world. Like, because it's like, I wouldn't want to go outside. I mean, to be honest, because it's like, oh, I'm going to take a walk. Next thing you know it, I'm
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
Well, it was so bad for them that it was actually genetic at that point.
Oh,
Yeah,
didn't-
so
if they
ended up evolving into it.
Yeah, they were spacefaring. Once they left their planet, it was still the same.
Yeah.
Their whole genetic structure was just decayed to that.
Damn.
And they happen upon the old ones who have this technology, and they asked the old ones to provide them the secret. And I'm going to use the term that I've heard repeated: ask them for the secrets to immortality, which the old ones didn't possess.
'Cause
They
again,
kind of
they age slowly. It's not that they were immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, but whether it was as simple as a miscommunication, the Necron tier said we want immortality, and they're like, that's not what we have, or whether the old ones understood what the Necron tier were getting at and just flat out refused them for some reason, we don't know. But they did. Told them to get lost.
Yeah.
They decided not to help them.
All right. Stand it up. All right.
And so the Necron tier, which were originally just a planet full of families that fought and vied for power because their lifespans were so short, they often spent it in just this mad grab for power in the short lives they
just
had.
live it up while you can, kind of.
Yep.
Just take
Could-
as much as you can with.
Could they fix the sun though?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is that too
they
much?
And
weren't
even if
that
they did, it was
advanced.
genetic at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So forgetting that.
Yeah.
Nope, it's good. And so, but when the old ones turned them down, this actually united the entire planet
Yeah.
against the old ones.
Revolution.
Yes,
Yeah. They
And
were
so
pretty
the
much like, fuck these
Necrons
guys.
launched just an all-out war against the old ones,
Yep.
which amounted to about a flea on an elephant's ass.
They didn't mind much. They weren't putting much of a dent in them.
No,
The old ones had incredible amounts of technology. Like they probably could have fixed the star. That's
Yeah.
kind of my interpretation of
yeah,
like,
they could have
how
fixed them
advanced
in
they
any
were.
number of ways.
Yeah, they could have
And-
taken care of shit. So they
And so one of the big things that the old ones had was they had faster than light technology, which in the 40K universe is basically like dropping into a
alternate dimension.
a dimension. There we go.
Yeah.
A different dimension where time passes differently and then popping back out into our reality.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like reaching in, just grabbing back something in a sense.
No, because it's a violent process because imagine that these two are separated by membranes. The
Yeah.
two dimensions are separated by membranes. You have to punch a hole through it and punch a hole back.
Oh,
Yeah.
And you could come out kind of close to the planet that you wanted to be. You could come out across the other side of the galaxy, maybe, or you could come out in a different whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Good
Very
luck.
Unpredictable. and hard to judge, but it's still like the fact that you could go faster than light was so valuable that, taking that
and it became better and better over time, but it was never great.
Yeah.
But the Necrons didn't have this. The old ones were able to do it to the nth degree and just come out when they wanted, how they wanted, where they wanted, or stay in entirety and never come out at all.
Yeah. The choice was theirs. That kind of technology compared to other races just completely changes the game. You know what I mean?
So the Necron tier never had a chance fighting a war against the old ones.
Yeah, it sounds like it because of just a technology difference.
Correct. And their short lifespans. They were a dying race.
Yeah.
So the great old ones. Boy, you know what? I'm a
mythos, huh?
Listen, I was a Lovecraft fan way before I knew anything about the old ones. So now I have the great old ones and the old ones battering around in my head, and it is tough. But anyway, the old ones beat the Necron tier back all the way back to their home planet and then promptly forgot about them. And so the Necron tier were pretty well defeated and kind of stewing in their own juices, more or less.
Yeah, not much they could do.
When somehow, we don't know how, we don't know in what fashion, they figured out that one of the reasons why their star was going so ill was because there was a celestial being feeding off of it.
Yeah. So it's just constantly just feeding off the people?
It's feeding off their star,
so
poisoning.
That's why it's okay, that's why it's
poisoning
toxic.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to be why. Yeah.
So is the monster itself toxic?
No.
Okay.
Just no, it's good.
It's a good question.
It's just the effect it's having on their star.
Yeah. And so it's like this giant being of light that is, just kind of drinking out of their star as it goes, almost like a leech or
a parasite. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so once they become aware of this entity, somehow, we don't know how.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They convinced it to talk to them. Like before they did that, it was kind of just almost sedated, feeding off this star passively, right? Like in some form of hibernation.
Just chilling. Yeah.
Not aware of anything, didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And somehow they get its attention.
And are able to like
communicate.
Yeah. Communicate with it.
Yeah.
Does it explain how?
No, we have no idea how they managed to work this out.
Yeah. Okay. Not sure.
But they did. And the star god thing.
That's what they ended up calling it.
That's what
star god.
It was a star god.
Yep.
They were told that they were called the Satarn. And I can't remember how they pronounced that particular Satarn's name.
Oh, yeah, me neither. Yeah.
But what they didn't know was in the Satarn language, his name actually means the deceiver.
Yep.
So that's the first one they meet.
The deceiver. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah. And he tells them that they actually fought a war against the old ones and lost.
And he's also got beef with the old ones now, is what he tells them.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of, feels like there's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't even the Eldar aren't even created yet.
Yep. This is still in the lead up to the Eldar.
This is still in the lead up to their race. This is how 40K goes.
Yeah.
So buckle up.
Yep. So anyway, the deceiver and the Necron tier make an alliance, and the Necron tier form bodies made out of living metal for the Satarn to inhabit so that they have physical form. And the deceiver goes and gets all his Satarn buddies and is like, hey, we're back, boys. And they all jump into these bodies and launch into this massive war back against the old ones.
Yep. So it's basically like they've condensed, because, this thing's big enough to kind of envelop and affect a star. And they just cram all of that power down.
I know
like
that.
This
I'm
little
just imagining like over 9,000 like power level here. It's like,
and you'd be right. They're essentially like metal gods. That would just
And this revitalization of the Necron tier and the fucking Satarn just completely blow away the old ones. They did not see this coming at all.
No, they were completely taken by surprise.
And it launches into a war where the Necron tier are going planet to planet, like exterminating, just turning them into rocks so that the old ones don't have places to hide. But the Satarn are nuking systems, like 500 planets at a time.
Just to do away with the old ones?
Yep.
No, and they're absorbed. They're like locusts.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right. Yeah, so they're just sucking the energy out of everything now along the way too. So it's just this devastating wave across the
of
galaxy
just barrenness.
Nobody saw coming. Yeah.
I'm just kind of baffled because it's like just how much power. Like it's
yeah.
That is one of the harder things to kind of just grasp in this universe, especially like when starting out, is just like the scale of everything.
Correct. Yeah. And this. So this war in heaven we're talking about here, we have covered battles that have hundreds of thousands, arguably millions of people in them at any given time. And this made those look tiny.
Yeah.
Like this is the biggest conflict that has ever happened, that ever probably will happen in this ever.
Right. Like everything that we talk about from, the history of Imperium of Man, Eldar, and stuff like that, all of those conflicts just pale in comparison to the scale we're talking about right now.
Right.
Yeah.
This was a galaxy-wide...
The war to remember.
And sadly, nobody does.
Not many lived to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost nobody does.
Yeah.
But...
Spoiler alert.
But in reaction, so the old ones start losing ground, and in reaction to this, they start in very quick fashion making soldiers, going to planets and augmenting them the way they always had, but where they would usually just let them develop on their, they would give them that boost and then just leave them off and let them develop in their own over the courses of hundreds of thousands of years or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead, they like grab them and get them there.
Throw them at the enemy. They're now weapons.
Right. Like
and they need to come out quick.
They do in like hundreds of years, or maybe even a little bit less, what would take hundreds of thousands.
Right.
And then further. And so they created two races. They created more warrior races than this.
Right.
But these are the only two that survived that we know of. They created the Orcs, which were then known as the Krork.
Yep.
And they created the Eldar, the Elves.
Yep.
Now, where... Yeah. Now, the Orcs were meant to be physical, brute force, strength, grenades, guns, bombs, tanks. They were meant to be the shock and awe troops. The elves, the Eldar, were actually meant to be incredibly potent psychic weapons.
Yep. Ooh. So they're the ones who are using, because psychers use warp energy.
Right.
Is that correct? Yes. Yeah.
So all psychic energy comes from another dimension. The same dimension that you travel through for faster than light travel is called the warp.
Okay.
And it is a dimension that draws all of its energy. So imagine it like a plant, gives oxygen and then it cycles back in right through water.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Or not human, but sentient beings, emotions and thoughts and all that energy that comes from that creates the warp, which then creates a river of energy that psychers can then use as power.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to slowly peel out the warp.
Okay. Yep.
Because it's complicated. But this is actually the story of it.
Right. This is how it got to be the way it was.
Right.
Or
the way it is.
I mean,
yeah. So the Eldar they're taller than humans. They're like perfect, right? They're described as like marble statue-esque. They're elves.
Right. They're space elves. They're what we think now in modern times of as elves. Like perfect physique, gorgeous to look at.
And psychotic.
Yeah.
So they did have, even at that point, I think, much stronger emotions than what a human.
So somebody that has like bipolar disorder, like they have those really deep emotional swings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just them.
Just constantly.
It can. It depends. They value, the Eldar place very strong value on self-discipline because of that.
Right.
But like if they don't, they're as crazy. Their anger is they go from 0 to 10, and their 10 is actually a 12.
Right.
And it's same thing with sadness, happiness, everything.
Yeah. Like it's all just bumped up to an 11. When they're happy, they are fucking overjoyed. When they're angry, look out. They're going to kick you in the balls. You know what I mean? Or that's how they feel. That's the strength of their emotion.
Very
that they're
impulsive.
feeling. Yeah.
Very, very impulsive.
They could be if they didn't keep a rein on themselves.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So they join the fray, and through the combined might of the Old Ones and the Eldar and the Orc, they start pushing back the Necron tier and the Satarn.
Yep.
It's a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's a fight.
And the Satarn come up to the king of the Necron tier, and they offer him a deal. They said, we'll give you the eternal life and we'll win this fight. All you have to do is give us permission and we'll take your souls and put them into these metal bodies that are made out of the same metal as us, right? And he agrees.
Because their bodies were fucked anyway.
Yep.
Right.
You know?
But what he didn't know is that what actually happened is they went into the bodies, but the lower rank you are, so like if you know, the king and then the generals, and then it breaks down lower and lower. The lower you are in rank, the less of your personality actually remained, and you became more of an automaton. So he actually doomed the majority of his own race to just be mindless metallic drones.
Yeah. Didn't know it.
Didn't read the fine print.
Didn't read the fine print.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make a deal with.
I think his name's Zarek. Maybe not. But anyway, the king.
The king.
But the flip side of this is they did have those new pretty well indestructible metal bodies.
Yeah. Which was a big step up from all that like radiation poisoning riddled genetic decrepit.
Yeah.
And all the automatons are psychically linked to the higher ups. So it allows for much better soldier, mass movements and coordination and attacks and stuff.
I just imagine just a bunch of cyborgs just going at
Pretty
it.
much.
Yeah. That's
And-
not a bad way to put it. Yeah.
And throughout this process, the Eldar and the Orcs were slowly actually starting to forget the Old Ones. They were stopped listening to them. The Old Ones were actually taking the brunt of the casualties, trying to shield the younger races so they could visit less and less so that they could recoup in this area called the Webway, which was their own private dimension that they traveled and lived in pretty much.
Yeah. So it was another
dimension
it was
besides the
safer
warp.
than the warp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just kind of ran. Like from the
They
war.
did.
Like,
They would have to, and then they would come back and like try to talk to the races. And the Eldar basically, through time, forgot about them and didn't back them up, and neither did the Orcs.
Because this war is taking place over like thousands
of
years.
Yeah.
And these races are still kind of going about their day. If they've like secured that part of the galaxy, then they're just chilling and might even forget about what's going on.
yeah.
And while this is happening, the Eldar have come up with their own pantheon, their own gods, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so they started, dealing with them over the Old Ones. And what actually ended up happening is the Orcs and the Eldar thrived, and over time, the Satarn and the Necron. Well, so after they go into the metal bodies, the Necron tier then took the name the Necron. They left that old identity behind.
Yeah, there's something new now. They've been remade.
And so eventually the Old Ones lost.
And disappeared.
They were
Like-
wiped. There was one left. And we actually do know when the final one died.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was about to ask, like, do they ever come back?
no. Oh my God, no.
Well, I think some people do have the theory that there might be some out there or not. I don't know how backed up that is.
No, it's not.
Doesn't seem to be.
No,
Yeah.
no. An old one. So the closest thing to an old one we have would be like the Emperor, and that's not.
Right.
That's not close.
Right.
So eventually, the old ones are wiped out, and
their creations are left behind
yep.
with dwindling memory of them.
And the Eldar actually become more and more powerful. Like,
Yeah.
So because they're so dedicated to like self-discipline and their emotions run so deep, when they study their psychic power, they're able to like Doc Strange it, right? Like they become the best of the best, the quickest, the fastest. And it gets to the point where they can create anything they want with a thought.
Just between their psychic powers and their technology.
Whatever they wanted.
Yeah. Anything.
That would be handy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
They
so
didn't have to worry about their food, their shelter, anything. It was
And
just,
so with this,
thought
they
of
shit
taking care
kick
of.
the Satarn and the Necrons to the point where the Satarn, we went into hiding, and are all bound or locked away or shattered into pieces, still alive, but they have to conjoin all the pieces to become whole again, because that makes sense. And the Necrons started tomb worlds, just random worlds, backwater worlds that they didn't, just wherever they thought the Eldar wouldn't look.
Yeah. And
then sealed themselves up in these tombs and went into hibernation.
They were like, fuck this. We're going to wait until those guys
are gone.
Yeah. we'll sit forever. And they sit for a very long time just in hibernation from that point.
I mean,
just to wait out the Eldar Empire.
It absolutely is.
Yep. And it seems to have worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah.
So far.
Well, we don't actually, maybe.
Yeah. I guess we don't know, but
we don't.
They remained hidden. That whole time.
Well, I mean, they survived.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Eldar, the Krork de-evolve into the orc.
Yeah.
And go full retard.
Hey.
Yeah, they get real stupid. They do. Because they used to be brilliant.
Yeah, they used to be.
And each one was like, I mean, I've heard that each individual one was like strong enough to take on a Primarch.
Oh, I'm sure, probably.
Yeah. So they were just very powerful beings and lots of them, but they kind of, they.
Over time and fighting and stuff, they just became stupid.
Yep.
And so the Eldar were just like the heir apparent kings of the galaxy.
They had no great opposition. The only thing that could have posed a threat to them at that point were the Krork, and they
de-evolved into stupid.
So they were the smartest thing around with all that technology.
I think I've heard you guys talk about these guys where they're the happiest.
The orcs are most definitely.
Are definitely the happiest.
Yep. And they're like, if they would all band together and actually think, and
it'd be over with.
Yeah. Yep. They would end the rest of life in the galaxy.
For the exception of maybe chaos.
Maybe chaos.
Yeah,
that stood out, huh?
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. I've definitely heard you guys talk about this. I mean, I think I heard in the prologue.
Yep. Yeah, so we had Daniel do listen to the prologue as homework. Yep.
So yes,
but
to the listeners, definitely give it a listen.
Thank you.
Yes. But while this is happening, while the war in heaven went down and the Eldar took control and the old ones were wiped out and the Krork de-evolved into the orcs, something else was happening that nobody knew about, or if they did know about, they didn't care about, and they should have. And that was all of this bloodshed, all of this devastation, all of this suffering, all of this war, all of this emotion was pouring into the warp.
You remember the warp reflects the galaxy.
The galaxy's emotions.
And that was a very long period of time to just keep.
And so that turned what it was described as like a placid river of energy into a literal hellscape.
Yeah. Like hell in the way that you would, like if you picture that fire and brimstone sort of hell and just put that in space. And there's worlds in it that like coalesce.
And
that would look scary.
There's the 4 chaos gods. Well, 3 of them developed.
Yeah. 3 of them did develop out of all that, chaos that was going on prior.
The 3 primal emotions took root, became entities, and then these entities became stronger and stronger because they kept being fed by people's emotions, and they became the gods of the realm.
And now you remember us saying something about an Eldar pantheon.
Yes.
Do you want to get into that real quick?
Sure. So
maybe, So they had the psychic power gives them way above average influence on the warp.
Yeah. Correct. And they were able to. So we don't know whether they used their psychic energy and kind of accidentally created their gods. Right. Through just the concept of it, because they're psychic and can do that. Or another theory is they might have actually been pieces of technology given to them by the old ones that once they had forgotten what it was, through their psychic belief, they became sentient and became the gods.
And the Eldar didn't remember.
Oh,
cool.
So old technology is like, oh, look at this.
Yeah. When you,
it's like when you give a kid a VCR.
Right. So like,
what is this?
So we don't know if we don't know how the gods actually came into creation.
Right. The Eldar have their own kind of myth about that, but it doesn't really match the history, especially not what we're talking about.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but that kind of goes back to what Ben set up earlier. there's different versions and different perspectives and stories on this history and stuff. So yeah. And I actually would like to do a chapter on the Eldar gods at some point. They look pretty interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But do you want to give us a brief rundown?
Yeah, we'll do a brief rundown. Let's see now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of run through the names in no particular order just to set the stage. And I probably won't hit all of them because, unfortunately, what I'm looking at doesn't just give me a comprehensive list.
Well, sure. Yeah, there's just a few.
Cain is their god of war.
Caleb mentioned Cain.
Oh, nice. You dared the pronunciation.
He's one. So he's one you're going to hear a lot.
Yeah. From my understanding, he actually didn't get along with the Eldar too well.
Probably not.
Yeah. There's also, the pronunciation. The Phoenix King.
Oh, you cheating bitch.
Do you know what it is?
No,
How
I
to
don't
pronounce
know.
it? Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Listen,
then.
I popped my one, okay?
Okay. It looks like Assyrian, the Phoenix King. That's the only attempt I'm going to give it.
Nice.
Yeah, and I like that because the Phoenix King right away plays into resurrection, this theme of resurrection, which we do kind of see with the Eldar, don't they? Because we haven't covered that yet. I don't know.
Right. No, we'll go ahead.
So they also have Vol, who is also seems like a kind of a key player in their pantheon, and he's like their forging god, their kind of
the weapons master.
Yeah, reminds me of Vulcan.
So imagine if he was actually a version of some sort of factory that produced weapons.
Okay.
But it just delivered them somehow. And so they thought that was a god giving them weapons.
Right.
And their psychic power imbued it with the ability to think like that god.
And just become sentient.
Yeah.
And now he's this god who bestows.
Yep. So it could be something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
They're just overpowered. It seems like really overpowered.
Oh,
yeah.
you wait.
Yeah.
We're not done yet.
Let's see. We also have, there's an important one, the laughing god, Kegarak.
Yeah.
He's associated with the
Harlequins.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a very trickster sort of god.
More like
he's
like Loki.
Yeah, he's a Loki.
I would say that.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah. At least what little I know of him, that sounds like an apt comparison.
Sure.
Especially just in that they are both trickster gods. We also have, where is her name? Isha. Or Aisha.
Isha,
fertility goddess.
The one that Nurgle has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's their fertility goddess. They also have one that's, I think her name is literally Gaia, which is an existing goddess in our time.
Of course.
In our world. And there's a few more.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had this going. They were the rulers of the galaxy. They had actually even conquered death. So when they died, their souls went to their version of their afterlife.
Yeah.
Which was created by their psychic energy.
Yep. So they had themselves pretty well covered. They had a pretty good thing.
And they could choose to come back from that afterlife at any time.
Yep.
Whenever they just felt it was necessary.
Just reincarnate, reform. Their gods backed them. I think it sounded like their gods would even come down on the battlefield if they wanted.
Yes, they would. The avatar of Cain would do that.
Okay.
Although his ass was dragged down by High Fleet Behemoth when they showed up.
Oh, really?
Even the Eldar weren't ready for that.
Holy cow.
It was just too many. Just too many.
Dear Lord. But yeah, that's the kind of power level that the Eldar had going on. They didn't have to worry about a thing, not even death. They didn't have to worry about death. So they lost.
And they're not the happiest?
They're not.
At this time, they were. At this point,
right?
You have to remember,
happier than the orcs at this point.
This is before humans were ever created.
Still before humans existed. Right.
This is before we ever entered the galaxy.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, we didn't fuck it for them.
Oh,
you can blame humans for a lot in the 40K universe. The Eldar state of things is not our fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is one thing we can give ourselves credit for at least. But man, it's just the amount of. No wonder they kind of lost their concept of consequence. They had no consequences anymore.
There was no war anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody would dare even try it.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that all changed.
No.
Oh, okay.
It didn't.
Okay. I was expecting a little turnaround.
No, there was no point in even trying. Nobody could match their technology. Nothing could match their psychic prowess. And so they just kind of sat happier than a pig in shit.
Mm-hmm. Huh. They had pretty much golden age at that point.
Yeah. And so human beings developed about this time period, and we became spacefaring, and we went out into the universe. We encountered the Eldar. We fought them. We lost. They ignored us. Like,
They had nothing to worry about.
yeah, that was the thing is it's not that we could fight them. They just opted not to because there was no reason for them to.
And
Right.
us humans were like, no,
We're
we're going to go at them.
Yeah.
again.
Actually, no.
Oh,
We went
okay.
at them a few times probably when we first expanded, and then we were like, oh, hell no.
Okay.
not touching that.
So boundaries is definitely.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll just
Pretty
not.
and the boundaries were what the Eldar set.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
they
right.
just-
Like there was,
Yeah.
do not mistake the setup here. There would have been, and we don't know because the records from this time are almost next to nothing.
Oh,
This is called the Dark Age of Technology.
Yeah.
but they had it all.
The Eldar did. Yeah.
the
this
Eldar
was the
did,
Dark
and so
Age
did
for-
mankind by
yeah.
our standards was ridiculously advanced. It just
Yeah.
didn't touch what they were doing.
Right.
But an unintended consequence of having nothing to worry about, nothing to work on, nothing to strive for, and having a race run entirely by their emotions.
Is they
Yeah.
no longer needed to be disciplined about how they managed their emotions.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's weird.
degradation became the byword.
Yeah. When you're in a world where they could get their arm chopped off and be fixed by lunch. You know what I mean?
Not even.
Like, yeah. Just remember, just think about it. And there it is.
And there it is.
So they started exploring
Experience.
experience. Yes. They already experience things way more intensely than humans do, of course.
Yeah.
So they're pushing those kind of boundaries now.
So what happens when sex, no matter what type of sex it is, doesn't push it?
Doesn't even push the button in your brain that says, "Hey, cool."
Because it got to the point where they would kill and eat each other just for fun.
Just to feel something. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I want something new. I want.
Right.
I want to feel that
Yeah.
new
I
feeling.
want- yeah.
Correct.
I
Their
want something extreme for a moment.
their
Yeah.
cities would just run with blood because they could slaughter and kill each other, and they could come back if they wanted to.
Well,
Yeah.
Before
Resurrect
all
the moment
that,
they wanted.
were they like boring? I mean, like I know it's because like they want chaos, they want that adrenaline. I think. And
Right.
They want it like.
I think by comparison, they were boring.
Okay.
in a sense, like they probably
They were very disciplined.
yeah, for a very long time. So they were, I imagine, just very stoic and let's just oh yeah, I've got my morning coffee by holding out my hand and here it is, and let's just check on what's going on out here. Okay,
I mean,
cool.
that would be neat. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong, but like
yeah,
feeling like, hey, I want to feel something new. I'm gonna go on a murdering spree. It's just like that's not with your morning coffee.
right.
it's
I mean,
just-
that's where it got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it got beyond that.
Yeah.
And so while this was happening, they were feeding all this particularly tinted energy of indulgence and seduction and perversion into the warp, and it was creating a ball, just like
Just a ball of energy.
a mass of swirling in this hellscape.
Yep. And it started causing storms throughout
The warp,
the warp, which was disrupting
interstellar travel,
for these
other races.
Yeah. Yep. The Imperium of Man started having trouble with that.
Like,
or
what's
they
that?
weren't the Imperium back then.
They weren't the,
No.
but that's fair enough.
Yeah.
like, what's that sound of lust I hear?
And so, and so there were some Eldar that started reading the writings on the wall, right? They were
Yeah.
like, listen, this is getting way out of hand. The warp is in turmoil. There's
Yeah, it's
storms.
definitely responding to what is going on.
And so they kind of divided into two ways on what to do about it. Some of them fashioned giant planet-sized ships that they called craft worlds, loaded up their followers, and
Mhm.
fucking just took off.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. They just had everything they needed to live with there on that and got as far away as possible from
From the
debauchery.
the debauchery and
Yeah.
influence of the others.
Yeah.
The others stayed behind and tried to right the course of their civilization.
Yeah. They kind of had it in their mind that they might be able to, if they stayed, they might be able to influence it in the right direction.
So you had the extremists with extremists.
Yeah.
So it's
Correct.
Yeah.
I was going to try to a different word now.
No, definitely extremist might undersell it, So,
Yeah.
but what else are you going to say? It's basically Hellraiser. Like, I don't know if we've drawn that comparison.
Yeah,
on this
I
recording
have.
just yet.
Not
Have
on
you?
this recording,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
most definitely. Yeah. Imagine elves that went full on Hellraiser, hooks, chains, like
Peeling back
peeling
their
back
face
faces.
skin.
Yeah.
Are they against each other now?
Oh, all the time. Well, I mean, for fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
for fun. But the Craft World Eldar that we referenced, they were against him in that they just didn't agree with what was going on.
They were
left.
peaceful,
Okay.
and they're just like, we're separating. We're
They weren't
leaving.
going to add to it. It's like they couldn't even hurt him if they wanted to, really, because
No.
hurting is just feeding into
Yeah.
their
So-
pleasure, pain.
Yep.
orgy
And so
going on.
that ball of energy actually turned into an egg, and inside the egg was a brand new chaos god, the chaos god Slanesh.
It sounds
Yes.
bad.
Yeah.
Slanesh is the god of pleasure, pain, addiction,
Indulgence,
Indulgence.
suffering, torture,
but also art.
Yeah. 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 Aesthetics, art,
Beauty.
pleasure, beauty.
See, right when you added art, I'm like, okay, all right.
Well, that's
because it's all art at that point.
well, that's
And that's how a lot of the Eldar saw it, which I think is probably what fed into that particular
Oh
trait.
boy.
Yeah.
and so Slanesh was born, and that tore the galaxy, tore reality,
Yeah.
in half, and split it down the middle to where there's a big open wound between our reality and the warp. It's like a clear gate right through.
Yeah. Just massive, like swallowed up probably hundreds, if not thousands of stars when it ripped open.
And Slanesh's psychic scream of birth sent out a wave that just reaped souls right out of the bodies
Yeah.
for billions of light years.
Yeah. Just sucked the Eldar souls right out.
And not just Eldar.
Everybody else in between.
Anything inside of that blast radius was toast.
Oh.
And so trillions upon trillions of lives just and the center of its birth was the Eldar homeworld.
Yep, because that was the center of the debauchery going on.
That was the center of what was feeding it.
Oh boy.
Yep. So the Eldar lost a majority of their
They became
population in
an
that.
endangered species.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if we
With-
were to measure their population loss, yeah, they would be considered an endangered
Yeah.
species.
And they're not, those souls aren't being reincarnated because they are inside of a chaos god.
Right. And so now the Eldar, anytime they die, Slanesh, their soul automatically goes to Slanesh. There's no more reincarnation.
Yep.
It's one and done.
Yep. So they have to find ways around that.
So how
Best
did they
they
get
can.
around that? You're actually going to have to wait for the next episode to find out.
Oh, you got me hanging.
Look at that
Yeah.
teaser. Book 2.
Book 2,
Right.
we're going to find out how the Eldar managed to cling on to life.
I was at the edge of my seat. I was like, come on, tell me.
We'll find out. We'll cover how the Eldar managed to just. I mean, listen, don't feel too bad for them just yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
They remember what I said in the 40K. There are no good guys. It's just which people do the thing that you can live with the best.
And I will be interested to see your perspective as we kind of keep going with different races and stuff, because the Eldar will be running into some, so we might touch on some.
Oh, for sure.
More races or species for you.
Oh, we've got and there are levels to the Eldar that we haven't gotten to yet. We haven't covered the Dark Eldar or the Homunculus.
No. Oh God. Ugh.
So
Sorry. Yeah.
so
Stay tuned.
yeah, oh yeah, those guys. So without giving anything away, the Dark Eldar and the Homunculus in specific are probably the ones that I would want to run into the least in all of 40K. Most likely.
That's relatively fair to say.
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
They're at least in the top 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what
You're not
choose
meant
yet.
to.
Yeah, I was
Just-
about to-
no, yeah.
Everything that you've heard about what the old Eldar like to do before it all went to shit is nothing compared to what these guys get up to. Nothing.
I let you know. Of course, throughout the series, I'll let you know by the end of it. I'll let you know which one I like the most.
The end
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The end of it.
Okay, touche.
You haven't. You clearly just haven't grasped the size of this thing yet, son.
Touche.
But I would love to hear as we go along.
Absolutely.
who you-
No, but just the term "the end of it" made me chuckle.
Well, yeah, because it's ongoing.
It
Oh,
is
yeah.
ongoing,
Yeah.
and if they were to stop tomorrow, it would
Still would
take years.
Yeah, we would still just take so long.
Yeah.
Covering all of it.
So Daniel. Daniel.
I'm
Yes,
Daniel.
Daniel.
I'm so used to having Dan with us, but
Yeah.
it's Daniel is with us this time.
We missed you, Dan.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
wait till we have them both. I'm gonna kill myself. It'll be D and double D, and I don't want to hear anything else about it.
I think with Dan's and Daniel's, when I know this is random, but when in friendships, we actually look at each other and we both in an agreement. Like, okay, who are you? And I'm like,
Which version of the name are you going to be?
And we both agreed. And like we went to high school together. And
Yeah.
it was like, but yeah, that's random thought.
That's
Oh,
good.
no.
It's like you're Daniel and he's Dan.
And I
distinction.
anybody that knows me, I full-heartedly agree. One is Dan, the other one is Daniel.
Yes. It's better than Dan 1 and Dan 2.
Yeah, absolutely. But Daniel, what do you think of so far?
Wow. I want to say so far, I'm really intrigued. I definitely want to learn more, and the elves are so far my favorite because that's the most what you've dove into, of course.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's like,
The most
but-
exposure, yes.
but
But you kind of have a leaning toward elves in lore in general.
oh
right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
almost every D&D game I've played with you, I know
Yep.
I was an elf.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm kind of like leaning towards that, but
Yep.
I like the orcs, like too. Like
Everybody
They
likes
just
orcs.
sound fun. I know. I'm the same way.
if they were just think.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
If they would just,
If they could just put two thoughts together
like-
in a strategy, they might be worth something.
if they were
God.
But I like that.
All right,
And-
and that's a good segue into our the comparison kind of phase that we end up doing.
Oh.
Eric, you said me and you had kind of talked earlier when I managed to come home for my lunch break, and you were like, what'd you say? Where they diverge and where they're similar are very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll go a little bit into that. Now,
Without going, bear in mind we're not going. It's going to be pittance. We're
Yes.
going to be covering Tolkien eventually. Give us time.
yes. And of course, I am about to compare them to Tolkien
Of
once
course.
again.
That's Eric's home
Yes.
turf, so that's what he's going to do.
Exactly. So it's in Tolkien elves are known for their discipline as well as their deep running emotions. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so they do have that in common. And there were some compared to like the race of men and hobbits and dwarves, they're not very indulgent, and they tend to they're pretty stand-up guys, guys and gals as far as that goes. There were some bad ones back in the first stage. There were some bad boys back then.
But they were the minority,
Right.
whereas this is
Yep.
reversed.
This is reversed.
The entire race went fucking crazy.
Yeah. And so where they differ though is, of course, 40K took that little bit of like that deep running emotion and that kind of connection to their environment. The Tolkien elves, it's more of a like wilderness, nature sort of connection, whereas the Eldar, it's more psychic and like the ambient power of the universe and stuff like that. And then, what'd you say earlier? 40K it.
40, yeah.
Where they just bump up that,
Take that thing, dial it up to an 11, and then
Yep.
try not to make it cartoonish.
Yep, because the elves were also the first advanced race in Tolkien lore, and then had a fall that wasn't entirely not their fault. Some in a lot of ways. We'll get into that. Something else I kind of thought, and I debated whether or not I'd bring this up in this episode because I wanted to look at it a little bit more, but I will touch on
I
it.
would say too late
Yeah.
now. You've already
Yep.
crossed the Rubicon.
In Tolkien lore, there's a concept of it's capitalized seen and unseen. The seen world is, the mundane where the different beings that we recognize on the screen and in the books reside. And then there's the unseen where it's much more of a spiritual realm. The example that I can think of that illustrates it well in the movie is where Arwen shows up to save Frodo, and Frodo sees her as, wearing this clean white gown, and she's glowing and fair looking. And then we kind of get to see the real world perspective of her where she's in travel clothes and she's a little more worn. Her hair's done up more practically and stuff like that. And that really reflects the duality of how those elves exist very strongly in both the seen and the unseen worlds.
Yeah.
We see that with we see something very similar
with the Eldar.
with the Eldar in 40K because of their exceptionally strong psychic connection. That's what they were built for when they were first, I'll say built, created, whatever, by the old ones.
Right.
And that strong influence on the warp kind of reflects that. And so I thought that was kind of neat. I can't speak for the creators. I would be very surprised if they didn't do that with some sort of intention.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, if they were any sort of fans of the Lord of the Rings at all, which I think it's very safe to say that they were.
I can't imagine that you would create this type of universe in it. And
Right.
be at least one of them.
Right. And the elves fall from grace in Tolkien did happen. It's also a parallel, but theirs was a gentler one by comparison.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. they got lube. The Eldar did not.
Yeah.
Although they preferred it without lube, so sit on it, I guess.
I want to feel something new.
I want to feel something new. It's actually, I want to experience something. And I'll be doing more comparisons as we go along with this volume.
Of course,
For
this
sure.
is not. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
I would have never compared the two. I mean, I'm glad you did because it gave me a new perspective.
Kind of,
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I'm trying to do is
Right,
kind of build that
that's, and
perspective.
that's why we do it.
Yeah. Some listeners may come to the conclusion that I'm stretching some of these comparisons.
Well,
that
you
I do
have. I mean,
sometimes,
you have to.
but
I mean,
I'll
it's not
stretch
going to be a
away.
1-for-1,
Yeah.
certainly.
Exactly, and
I'm glad you did though.
Yeah.
because it was like I love Lord of the Rings, not much as you, but it's like
Well, yeah, and that's why he can. That's why he consistently goes. You go where you know.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I go where I know.
you do
Yeah.
you, boo.
Like, thank you, Daniel.
So that's going to be where we stop with the Eldar. But there is something that I did want to mention because it's pretty fucking exciting.
Okay.
And it's good for Daniel because he's just getting involved with this.
Oh,
Motherfucking squats are back.
Squats are back.
squatch.
The squats are the dwarves.
They are
So
space dwarves.
They are space dwarves, and they have been missing from 40K for a long time.
Yep.
Like to the point where they were actually GW, an employee or two, had actually been like, "Nope, we're done with them. We're not doing them anymore.
Not making the models. Not doing any more lore.
Nothing." And then on April 1st, Games Workshop drops a video that's like, "Guess we're back," and everybody's like, "It's April 1st."
It's
They're
April
like, "Nope."
1st, come on.
Yeah, they're like, "Nope, squats are back." So, god damn, that's exciting.
Just
getting-
imagine like everyone on April 1st was just like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, I'm not even
that's
going-
kind of
I'm-
what I was.
And
not
I'm-
even going to the store.
And I'm gonna say it now. I didn't go back and look, but I think on episode 0, it's either episode 0 or Imperium Appreciation Volume 1. I called it way early
You do okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember you saying that on
because I was like, they're dropping like squats have shown up here and there, and I'm seeing a lot of shit about squats, and I'm just like, something's inkling telling me that the squats are getting ready to come back.
Yep.
There's no such thing as retcon in the 40K universe.
Except for the squats, the space dwarves.
No, they're coming back. The squats are coming back. Listen, the space dwarves, they can tout all they want, but they're bringing all this stuff back, and there's absolutely room for the squats. God damn it, it's in the name. Squats. They can fit anywhere. But fuck, that's exciting because
Yep.
they're gonna be fun. So we're not gonna cover them right up yet. We're
No.
gonna let them do a little bit more developing so that we can see what was different when they left and what's new now. I think their homeworld originally and the race itself was wiped out by the Tyranids originally.
That's what I believe. I think
So,
that's right. Yeah.
We don't know if that's the story they're going to keep
Right.
or if they're doing a hard like reboot or what. So we're going to let that kind of marinate and kind of get some actual
As we
information.
said earlier, it's a slow moving ship. When they
It's a
take
very
those turns, it takes time.
yep.
So
And
this
this
is
just
new.
this just fucking happened.
brand fucking new. So we're gonna see where they settle on with the lore.
So
before
Daniel,
we
you
cover it.
actually are joining up at a pretty cool time.
yeah.
Get to
Something new is actually
you'll get to
finally
learn-
happening again.
You'll get to learn the squats with the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we'll be completely new.
I'm pretty excited because it's like just to learn like new characters.
Yeah.
And just
Uh-huh.
what they believe. I think really.
Daniel
Yeah.
just might have to be a squat because he brought him with him.
Oh.
And
He
he
brought in the squat.
You're bringing the squats, Daniel. Anyway,
No, stop doing squats, Daniel. Stop.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just kidding.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Anyway, we'll leave it at that. This has
Yeah.
been a great time. Thanks for joining us again, guys. Check us out. Where? Where indeed?
By the time this
By the time this is out, we might be everywhere.
we might just be everywhere.
So check us out. Like, if you're listening to us on YouTube, at this point, give us a look. Search us in Spotify and some of the other places and see if we're there. We might be.
We might be.
We might be.
We might be traveling the webways into another.
Oh, stop! You
Okay.
stop! I fucking kill you.
Aw, man.
It's terrible.
Look us up.
Look us
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Check and see if we are,
Yeah.
because we are certainly working on trying to get that way. We've had not snags, but some questions that haven't really got answered. But hey, permission, forgiveness, it's all the same thing, right?
Right.
So with that, I'm Ben,
I'm Eric.
Daniel.
and thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Cold Lore. I'm Ben.
I'm Eric.
And today we're carrying on with the Eldar. We're going to pick up where we left off with is at the birth of Slaanesh.
Yeah, a very quiet event that could have just passed by the wayside in the galaxy.
Barely a blip. Nobody noticed at all.
Not a thing.
Barely a cricket. So just a short recap. The Eldar had completely taken over the universe or the galaxy as far as technological achievements, just a ruling faction. They were the tip top.
Apex species.
Mankind at this time was at its peak as well. And from what I can tell, we just kind of chose to not engage with the Eldar because even at the heights of our technology, which you have to remember, the heights of our technology was we could use what was called an STC, a standard template construct. There it is.
There.
It could turn anything into anything. It couldn't create anything from nothing. But if you had like a wrought iron, it could turn it into an apple.
Wow. Just rearrange all the atoms.
Yeah, it could do matter manipulation, but it couldn't just outright create matter.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Eldar could create things out of nothing.
Right.
So getting into war with them was not in our best interest, and it seems like we pretty much just
kind of stayed out of their way.
Yeah, decided not to. They were, and we were below their notice, so they really weren't interested in fighting us as long as we didn't pick a fight.
We were the raccoons outside as long as we stayed out of the trash.
Well, they had a particular term for us. They called us monkeys.
Oh. Well, that's
Yeah,
an odd pronunciation, but I felt that sting.
Yeah.
Was
That is their derogatory term for all of mankind, which feeds into their not coming from primate ancestors, like it is believed that we do.
Right. Oh, I see. That makes sense.
So they refer to us as monkeys, and it is not a term that they use all the time, but it is one they'll absolutely use to remind us of our place.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm currently reading the Legion book of the Horus Heresy, which is about the Alpha Legion.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But there is an Eldar character in there who has referred to a human that works for him as monkey from time to time, and it is very much a power play.
I see.
Anytime this human agent starts getting a little, the term we would use would be uppity.
Gotcha.
He uses the term monkey to kind of put him in his place, and it's very apparent. So that's what they think of us, and this is after they had fallen, and after they're an endangered species, and they still have this attitude. So I'm sure you can imagine what it was like.
At the time,
at the top.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, these guys were elf supremacists. That's what I call them. They were, and they still are.
Sense. Yeah.
But anyway, their being at the tip top has its problems when it comes to morals, and they didn't have any. And through their society and degradation, they descended into depravity and hell, and were murdering each other and eating each other for fun. Sex had lost all of its appeal, and they had moved beyond that. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you've ever seen Hellraiser, it's somewhere in between that and Good God. So, until all of this energy that they had been dumping into the warp kind of unintentionally gave birth to Slaanesh.
Yep.
And in that one like ripping instance of Slaanesh's birth, it created a shockwave that just massacred trillions of Eldar. Put them on the endangered species list in a moment.
Yeah, instantaneously. And I think for the most part, the reason a lot of them survived was because some did kind of see what was going on with their society and had just of their own accord started getting as far away from that shit as they could.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were on these things that became known as craft worlds.
Yes.
Now, they were originally just giant floating malls.
Oh, okay.
Their original purpose was the Eldar would basically pack up an entire marketplace,
Oh,
which that represented their entire kingdom, basically.
right.
And they would go out to these other kingdoms and do trades, as long as you recognize that they got the better end of the stick. You know,
Fair enough. Yeah.
supremacists.
Right. When you're better than everything else and you're trading with them.
Correct.
You're
It's not
setting
going to
the
be a
price.
fair deal.
Yeah.
But that's what they were originally,
Just great big mall/trade ships.
more or less.
Nice.
And so these people, these Eldar that disagreed with the hedonism had converted them into craft worlds, these giant ships that they could live in forever.
yeah.
And they just took off out of there, took as far away from the center of the kingdom as they could. And it was just by sheer, they weren't fat. They didn't have faster than light. They weren't warp traveling.
Right. They were sublight, weren't they?
They were sublight.
Yeah.
So it was just by sheer happenstance that they outran the blast wave, which was was some stupid, incalculable distance that I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
Like it decimated multiple star systems. Okay, like
Yeah. Like I can't. Yeah. How would you quantify?
they
just
have
the size of
have it. The number's out there.
Oh,
I
no
think.
kidding.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
cool.
think it's out there, but
Okay.
I'm not even.
Yeah.
Look it up yourself, please. Please.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of Code of Lore is get you interested and look it up yourself.
Yeah. There we go. Yep.
But it was
Exactly.
it was just by sheer happenstance that they had reached minimum safe distance,
Oh, woof.
and a lot of them didn't.
Right.
And so the womb, the giant ragged vagina that Slaanesh came out of, was the Eye of Terror.
Yep.
And at this time, the Eldar gods, who had actually abandoned the Eldar,
At that, really?
yeah, they
were too depraved even for their own gods.
exactly, and that comes into something here a little bit later,
Okay.
but called the Tear of Isha.
Ooh.
Stay tuned for that.
Ooh.
But they had abandoned them. But seeing this happen and seeing what was going on, the Eldar gods threw themselves at Slaanesh and were basically slaughtered.
Oh,
We touched on this before
Yes.
mentioning the gods, but
Yeah.
this is kind of the context of which that happened.
yeah, I didn't realize that they were out of the game.
They were,
At that
yeah.
point, they were like, yeah, we're done
And
with you guys.
probably why they couldn't take Slaanesh. If you go into the
Oh.
theory that they were fed in by the belief of the Eldar, and that's what made them powerful,
Then they were weakened when they
Weakened.
went up against
Slaanesh.
Slaanesh.
and only a few, the Laughing God, Caleb and Chicane, and
the
the one held by Nurgle.
yep. And I can't remember her name. I won't guess.
Hey, future Eric,
What?
We have a job for you.
Oh, man.
find out the name of that goddess and put her right. Yeah,
Damn it, Dan.
And stop complaining about it.
that's right.
Seriously.
But anyway, so they all got wiped out, and Slaanesh retreated back into the warp. But this ragged hole that it had carved into the galaxy became what we know as the Eye of Terror.
Yes.
So that brings us up to speed where we come in now. What did the Eldar do? They were an endangered species. They were the only ones that were alive were left on these floating worlds called the craft worlds.
Yep.
Not exactly.
Oh. Not
There
exactly.
was another group of Eldar that managed to survive the birth of Slaanesh. And they managed to survive because their city, planet, home base, I believe it's pronounced Kamaraj.
Okay. I have seen the word of which you speak.
I believe it is Kamaraj is how you pronounce it. In the webway, shielded them. And they became known as the Drukhari, or the Dark Eldar.
Ooh.
Dark Eldar name actually came first. Drukhari came second. Some of the new names I like and I will keep. Some of them I don't like Eldari. Listen, adding an extra I at the end. Stop being lazy. Oh, and also, I'm preempting this. It's squats. Do you understand me?
Oh, Ben is firmly planting his foot.
The League of Voltan should be like a group of squats, like a particular faction. They are squats. Get over it.
Well, now you know where the cult of lore apparently stands on that terminology.
I'm calling it now.
Just know
They're
I have no
supposed-
context right now.
It's just they don't like the name squat. They think it's offensive, so they're trying to rebrand them as the Leagues of Voltan.
Leagues of Voltan.
And it's like
Yeah.
they're squats, dude. But anyway, I like the name Drukhari because it is completely. It's not just a half-ass change.
Right. It's an actual original
Yeah.
word or term that they came up with.
So I can
Neat.
keep the
Yeah.
Drukhari or the Dark Eldar. I like to say Drukhari just because saying Dark Eldar a lot gets old.
Yeah. Dark Eldar.
Especially if you're bouncing between Eldar and Dark Eldar.
Right.
It's nice to have the two separating names
Kinda
there.
distinct.
But anyway, the Drukhari are a throwback to what the Eldar kingdom was right before the birth of Slaanesh.
Okay. At the height of their depravity.
Yes, they're really bad. They are probably, oh man, they are the worst faction, I think, as far as just sheer monstrosity in the entire universe.
Wow.
The entire 40K.
That is a bold statement to
It-
make
I think-
with how just awful 40K can
Yeah,
get.
I think so. I
Wow.
think I can't think of anybody that I think I'd rather be captured less by than the Drukhari.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And they have managed to discover they can actually prolong their lifespans indefinitely by absorbing the suffering of others, the psychic energy put out by others. And so the longer, the more intimate, the just
more intense.
more intense torture that they can put you into, the more life they can draw from you and the longer they live. And they have equipment, and we're not going to get deep into it because we're going to get deep into it. Oh, by the way, this may be a short episode, but stay tuned at the end for a little hint, nudge, nudge, a little reward for our shortness today.
Yes.
So stay tuned to the very end, please. They have machines that can actually inflict psychic pain. So like it's physical pain, but it's completely imaginary. So it doesn't do any damage to your physical self.
Oh, wow.
But nevertheless, the experience for you is exactly the same as like they can make you have the visions of having your insides flayed out, right?
Oh.
But because it doesn't do any actual damage to your body, you're still experiencing the pain, but no actual damage. And they can pump you full of chemicals and drugs to keep your respiratory and heart rate down.
And your nervous system going.
Yep.
And, oh, man.
And they are governed by a group called the Homunculus,
Ooh.
who are even worse.
That's right. Even worse.
Even worse. Stay tuned. So you have the Drukhari who are lurking in the wings, but the Eldar themselves have to completely retool how their civilization works.
Yeah.
And they have two things that greatly help them with this. One is the invention of paths.
Yes.
Paths are a life choice that they make to help keep their emotional and psychic energies in check.
Yeah, to keep them in check and keep them from falling to the same sort of shit that
Help them with discipline.
Yeah.
And the other thing is called a spirit stone. Now, what does a spirit stone do? A spirit stone actually does exactly what it sounds like. It collects the soul of whatever Eldar it is attuned to the moment they die. That prevents their soul from going into the warp and thus avoiding Slaanesh.
Yeah. Because that's just what happens to them now.
Correct.
As soon as they die, they don't get to go to their little paradise anymore. They go right to Slaanesh unless they do something about it.
Instantly. And
Yeah.
yep, it's because Slaanesh is so intimately tied to them because it was their energy that birthed the damn thing.
Ugh. Yeah.
But a spirit stone or a waystone is a crystal gem that sits on their chest, on all of their armor. And it's also referred to as a tier of Isha. And the reason why it's referred to as a tier of Isha is supposedly, according to the Eldar, how they came by these stones, these gems, is they were made by Vaal, their god of smiths and craftsmen.
Mm-hmm.
And they were made from the captured tears of their god Isha, who was apparently weeping on their way as they were leaving when Assyrian, I think is how you pronounce it. It's their capital G god. It's their main guy.
Right.
He had enough of the Eldar shit, and he commanded all of the gods to turn their backs on them and to never enter the mortal realm again. And so she was crying because she considered all mortals to be her children. And so he collected the tears and created the gems. Right. And
Wow.
so what happens is every Eldar wears one of every craft world Eldar. There are Eldars called Corsairs that do not live on craft worlds.
Okay.
Now, we'll cover them on the next episode. 'Cause
Okay.
I haven't looked into them quite yet. Life has been interesting the past couple of weeks, and so we are behind. Forgive us. But anyway, at the moment the Eldar dies, the gem absorbs their spirit and puts them at kind of like a state of not consciousness or rest, but somewhere in between, where they can kind of interact with the energy of the gem itself on some level.
Oh, okay.
But they're at like some sort of comatose state until they're plugged into a matrix. And I call it a matrix because it could be a wall on a Titan. It could be a thing called an infinity circuit, which is at the center of their craft worlds.
Okay. I've read about those.
Right.
Yay.
It could be on a weapon, like an ancestral weapon
Oh,
made out of wraithbone. And all of these matrices are made out of this stuff called wraithbone. And what wraithbone is, it is solidified psychic energy from the warp.
Wow.
So the best my brain can comprehend it is, hey, future Eric, look up the term for when lightning hits sand.
I don't want to. Future Bailey,
What?
what do you call sand that's been struck by lightning?
Really? Why?
The past Eric and past Ben are making me do stuff.
So you've decided to make your problem my problem.
Yes?
Fulgurite. You're welcome.
Future Bailey says it's fulgurite.
Anyway, when lightning hits sand, it creates this kind of crystalline imprint of what the lightning bolt looked like, right?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of what wraithbone seems to be like.
Okay. That's kind of the impression I got from it. So it's like that frozen energy,
Right.
sort of. Like
Correct.
Yeah.
And so all Eldar can interact with wraithbone because it is psychically resonant.
Right.
And because they are so psychically talented, they can all interact with wraithbone, which allows them to interact and communicate with the spirit inside of the spirit stone.
Wow.
It allows them to interact with the wraithbone on for whatever purpose. It's like if it's connected to one of their titans, it allows them to communicate with the spirit in the gem so that the spirit can help move and guide the titan. Or if something happens to the driver, the spirit can take over. A lot of the spirit inside of the spirit stone seems to replace the machine spirit of the Empyrean.
Yeah. Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. I like this version a little better than the machine spirit, because with the machine spirit, it's like I just can't help but think of like, you're just banging, kicking a computer or something like
See,
that.
but that's what I actually like about the machine spirit, though, is
It's a little
you
more
can
grounded.
you can relate to it, because we've all had that moment where you were sweet talking a machine and it decided to work, or you just wrapped the shit out of it and for some reason that worked, even though it should have. To this goddamn day, Nintendo still insists that blowing on the original Nintendo cartridges did nothing to help them work, and we all know that that's bullshit.
That is absolute bullshit. That's tested, proven, slapped, science. Boom.
So
I'm serious.
So,
well, that's fair. But you know me, I like more mystical sounding stuff.
Sure,
so this
right.
has more of
But
that
anyway,
tinge to it. Yeah.
It's all right, Jipper. She was giving me weird looks because I slammed the table.
Don't worry, it's just Nintendo's denial. Go back to sleep, baby.
Anyway, so I like the machine spirit just because we've all had kind of that moment where it's like, why did that? But also, I'm a technophobe, so I believe they're already listening anyway.
Ben really is just looking at the coffee pot like, come on, man, please. And then it starts.
No, I've never actually managed to talk a machine into working.
Oh, maybe
my sheer presence has caused them to fuck up, but I've never got it to work in reverse. But anyway, so they where was that? Oh, infinity circuits.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat. An infinity circuit, it seems to be like almost like a skeleton of a craft world. It's kind of what it sounds like in its structure, right? And it's made out of this wraithbone stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. And it runs throughout the whole ship. It's like an inner core sort of deal and branches out through everything. And it's kind of what makes, I thought this was neat. I read somewhere that it kind of makes each craft world kind of sentient in its own right. Because it's got all these, I'm not Eldar. They plug in these spirit stones to the infinity circuit, and it creates something of an
infinity
hive mind,
right?
sorta?
So
Collective.
what it does is the Wraithbone connects each soul stone or each spirit stone.
Spirit stone. Ooh.
Each spirit stone to the other. And so the soul inside the spirit stone can communicate with the other and lend energy back and forth. And so the more you plug in, it's not so much a hive mind as like a collection of minds. They're not necessarily all one like the Tyranids are.
Okay.
But they can interact at the speed of thought.
So it's kind of like they each become a neuron, but it's an individual mind.
Right. They're just
Okay.
able to communicate back and forth with such speed that it's functionally the same.
Okay.
But they are individual personalities.
They keep their independence.
Correct.
Yeah. See, I like that better anyway than a hive mind.
Yeah.
They've basically made the internet out for dead people.
Yeah, it's just that all of them agree.
Yeah. They're all trying to help themselves survive. I think it's the superiority complex. They all agree because we're the best already. And we don't want to fall to Slaanesh. I take it, I'm going to make an assumption here that if a craft world gets destroyed and it destroys the infinity circuit, they probably rocket straight to Slaanesh.
They do. And it is considered to be a devastating loss. So the Eldar go out of their way. If the Imperium knew this, war with the Eldar would go very differently. But like one of the top, if not the top consideration for the Eldar when they make war plans is the cost of Eldar life. They need it to be like 100, 200, 300 to 1. Because of how few there are, and they know it.
Yeah.
So if the Imperium knew how high a price they put on their own heads,
oh boy, they would
just
really change the.
They could, because the way to win against the Eldar would be just to double, quadruple, just double down every single fucking time.
Yeah.
Because the one game they can't win is the numbers game.
Right, and there's plenty of humans in the Imperium.
Oh my God,
at this point. Yeah.
So,
oh boy, yeah. Just throw a trillion Imperial guard at
one craft world and just be like, have at it, boys.
Just keep going until.
And that's one of the reasons why the Eldar are shitting bricks about the Tyranids so much,
because they really have the numbers.
That is their whole game.
For more, yeah. Oh, I see. Boy, yeah, that would be pretty devastating. What could they've run into the Tyranids before?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm interested in? I haven't found anything out about, but I haven't looked totally into it. Guys, if you know the answer to this, reach out and let us know. But I wonder, so the Tyranids produced this thing called the Shadow and the Warp, right? Which is basically like a complete quarantine of the warp. It doesn't get past them at all. There's no demons can't exist. Like the gods have no reach.
Oof.
So what happens to an Eldar soul if they die in the presence of the Tyranids? Because Slaanesh can't reach out and claim it.
Oh, wow. Huh. I never thought about that. What would happen?
I don't know.
Huh. Anyone with some insight? I really would. We don't get a lot of comments at all. But
even one.
If you have an answer, please do.
Yeah, because that's I have no idea.
I'm very curious. Yeah,
but,
interesting. Ooh, one of the mysteries of Warhammer.
Right. So the loss of a craft world is absolutely devastating.
Yeah, that would be it.
And so we've covered the soul stones, or the spirit stones. That's going to be a thing. You know what? We need to get the hell out of here. People don't listen for the Eldar, and I don't like talking about it. Actually, I'm fine with talking about it, but it is true. People don't listen to them. You look at all the other videos and every other, like I've heard it from everybody from all different YouTubers. People don't listen to the Eldar. Listen,
Yeah.
I've got a bone to pick with you fuckers because I have heard so much bitching about Games Workshop not giving any meat to the Eldar players, no miniatures, no nothing. Well, motherfuckers, you don't watch the videos that have to do with the Eldar.
Yeah. How are they
So-
going to know?
So
Yeah.
you
Why?
don't, like, I'm
What?
also being a little patronizing to our viewers too. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
Oops.
No.
It's fine, but it makes sense. Supply and demand
It does,
as far as that
like-
goes. If they don't see the demand, if you can say it, but if they don't see it,
But
yeah, why would they invest in it?
with that, I will offer up this little, like, you can take my head off if you want for this because I'm being a little hypocritical. I myself don't watch Eldar videos. I don't. I like them. They're cool. They're interesting. The Harlequins are boss,
Yeah.
but they're not Warhammer's greatest contribution, really.
Honestly, they're not capturing me in the same way that like orcs do, that even elements of the Imperium do. Like, just not quite the same. And maybe that's because I haven't looked enough into them. But,
Maybe.
So, I
But
don't know.
we have the Spirit Stones, and the final thing we'll cover today is the craft or the paths.
The paths of, yes, the Eldar paths. So I put together a little list of what the wiki said was known paths. So I thought this was pretty neat because they're kind of this blend of, they've become this blend of what seems to be like not just occupation, but like also kind of religion. It's like Jedi paths almost. Like,
Yeah,
this is what
that is
you do.
that's a pretty
Yeah.
that's a pretty interesting
I didn't think I'd make a comparison today. There you have it, folks. Eric's comparison.
the Jedi path. And you know what? It really is. The only difference is the Eldar live so much longer, so they get to in
Really
Star
dive
Wars, if you
into
have
it,
a Jedi Master that's fluent in 2 or 3 of them, it's considered to be exceptional.
Right.
But for Eldar, they live hundreds of thousands of years.
So
Not
they-
hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years.
Yeah.
Hundreds or thousands of years. So they can sample them all. Although they don't fucking sample.
No, some seem to be like preludes to others. So in that regard, they might kind of jump from one to another, but it's never like really, I don't know how much they really branch out between each one.
So in some of the things that I was looking at, it can be quite dramatic.
Can it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'll go through this list here. We have the Eldar paths. There is the Path of Awakening. And that one, when I read the little paragraph on it, it seems like it's like your environmental awareness, your surroundings. Like these guys can kind of Sherlock Holmes the shit around them as far as like observation goes. They're picking up details that even other Eldar might find difficult or even impossible to
So it's like the
decipher.
path of observation.
Yeah, that was kind of my takeaway from it. Yeah, the path of observation.
And I bet they use their psychic powers, their psychic prowess to enhance that.
Yeah, I would imagine, although I don't know that for sure. But I mean, they seem to do everything with.
Correct. Yeah. It's their crutch.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It's one of the less obvious names,
Yeah.
Awakening. There's also the Path of the Artisan, which has a bunch of different branches under it, of course.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Poet, sculpture, like very, very arts related. One neat one I found, a subgroup, and I've set myself up for this pronunciation, Hithrinar.
Sounds right.
The philosophy behind it
No
is
idea.
that the artist should actually become as much a part of their art as they can be. That last bit's kind of in quotes from the wiki page. And that means like tattoos, changing
Oh,
the
okay.
color of
I was
their
gonna say,
skin, their
woo,
hair.
that could go dark.
Well, that was my thinking anyway. Even if it isn't like just, tattooing yourself up, it's like that one seems like you're towing the line.
Yeah.
Of course, the whole artisan one really could be kind of looked at that way. Poetry and sculpture, and I imagine painting,
I mean,
architecture.
I guess the whole point, though, is to tread these lines without losing control.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you got to walk a pretty tight path, I would guess. And it's actually, I guess it's one of the more common paths, too.
The artisan?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Overall, yeah.
I think the Harlequins kind of fall in that.
It sounds like it. From what little I know of them, they seem extremely performative and aesthetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are the Harlequins? Stay tuned for volume 3.
Ooh, there we go. Teaser. Book 3, right?
Book 3.
Book 3. There we go. Next up on our list, we have the Path of Command, military command and strategy. is what they fall under. They tend to have like some other military path under their belt first, and then they kind of follow that. Path of the Dreamer, which to me it seems kind of the opposite of the Path of Awakening. They are very much about like lucid dreaming and deep meditation and stuff like that.
I bet that leads into far-seeing and premonitions and
it kind of seemed related to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, most like. I mean, probably.
Yeah. Now this was a neat one to me, and actually this kind of ties into the Celtic
theme
kind of flavor that I'm picking up. The Path of Grief. It's these guys' job to show up to like funerals and remembrance, like memorial stuff, and take on the job. They're like keeners.
I was gonna say they sound like keeners.
Yeah. Where you go to funerals and you take on the grief, and it allows the Eldar to remember without succumbing to the emotions of grief.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of neat.
Boy,
it was a cool reason.
It's like reading about the Eldar. It's like, have you ever known somebody who is not just bipolar, but like really swingy? It's like that.
Yeah.
These guys, because when they take a path, they pursue it like whatever it is to perfection.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it can become an obsession, and they never leave that path.
And they just continue to follow that and seek further perfection in it as they go, probably.
Yeah, and they're referred to as the lost ones.
Oh no, the lost ones.
Yeah,
like they get so lost in their profession.
Yeah, because it's always meant that you are meant to do more than one. You were never meant to pick just one, but they have lost the path.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't really seem like they're condemned, but the Eldar instead seem to make jobs for them based on that. So like, I'm sure you have the ones that are the warriors.
Oh yes, the Path of the Warrior. Yeah.
So if they get all consumed by it, they become the ones that live in their bases and then train people in it until it's time to go to war. So they do stuff like that. Like, you're not condemned, but it's not looked at as a good thing.
Right. They're kind of like, ooh, okay, you're the Eldar version of a workaholic here.
Yeah.
You need to calm down, come back to family,
right?
Teach some people some
but
stuff.
they do seem to find places in society for the ones that have kind of...
Well, that's pretty nice. They're very good to each other.
They are just awful to everyone else.
Yeah. Just to get through a couple more here, there's the Path of Service, which is what was it? What's their word for us?
Monkeys
would consider menial jobs.
Right.
So they're dedicating that. It's the same sort of sense of duty that they would give to like the military, like the Path of the Mariner, which is their space fleet crew. Yeah. And stuff like that. And then there's the Path of the Outcast, which isn't actually a path.
No.
They're the ones who kind of run away.
Yeah, so those are the ones that I refer to as Corsairs.
Oh, okay. Look at us coming full circle.
Yeah, they're basically, and I'll provide more stuff on them in the next episode, but they're basically pirates.
Cool. Okay. Eldar space pirates.
Yes.
And then the last one I have here is the Path of the Seer, which has its own branches, such as, I guess, or the Path of the Witch is another word for it. I imagine Farseers fall under this umbrella.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Warlocks and
the Eldar equivalent of librarians.
Yeah.
Yeah, warlocks and all the crazy casty shit.
Yeah. That's what I've got on the paths. There are apparently more. It's just those are the ones that we know of as humans.
Yeah. Part of me on reflection has to wonder if one of the reasons why if the Eldar isn't boring is because there just isn't anything new to talk about.
Oh, this stuff might be kind of old hat.
So
I guess it's old.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess in trying to represent the problem with the scenario that Games Workshop's kind of dealing with is sometimes you have to be the first one to step forward to give them something new to talk about.
That's true. Yeah.
But they have here recently. They definitely have. We have the Yanari. There is the return of Gilliman that the Eldar, the Yanari especially, and the Harlequins play a giant role in, which we'll get into on the next Eldar episode.
All right.
So there is some new stuff. And like I said, guys, this is a shorter episode.
Mhm.
But we have a special kind of preview for you
There we
about
go. A preview. A
Preview.
little sneak peek
Yep.
kind of deal. Yeah.
behind a little thing to look at. So with that, thanks for joining us. I'm Ben,
I'm Eric.
and allow us to introduce to you our friend Jerry.
Pain is the only universal constant. Pain is all. It is the key to creation and destruction both. Thus does he who masters pain become God.
All right, we're back with another episode of Call to Lore, guys. Hey, welcome back.
Yay. And it's good to be back.
It is. We're going to kind of wrap up the Eldar with a volume 3. It's going to tie in. We're going to tie up some loose ends and just kind of leave you with where they're at, what they're doing, and then move on because ain't nobody got time for these guys. Just saying.
Just saying. You know.
No, this has been more interesting for me than the last part, is getting into the kind of the who's and the what's.
You know, I have to say the same, you know, because we divided up our research.
Yep, it's just
and-
us tonight.
Yep.
And
Just the
so
two of us.
We took 2. We meant to split a third, and we both flummoxed on it completely separately.
Yeah.
So we're gonna save that and turn it into a chapter.
Yes.
So since we flubbed on that, we won't even tell you what it was. That way you won't even know.
Yeah, you won't miss it.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you're all biting at the bit for more Eldar stuff.
You're not. Yeah, you're not. You're not. We're not. It's fine.
It's fine.
But you still have to cover them. They do deserve their due respect
Yeah.
by giving the time and the energy, and so we're covering them. So where we left off was they had fallen and they were living on these craft worlds, and the Imperium had risen, and the Eldar were all stuffy about it because they don't like the monkeys,
As the Eldari would
as
call
the Eldar would call us. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their version of the you know what word.
Oh my.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know what? They love it. I've read 2 books with Eldar in them now, and it wasn't an Eldar book. One was Legion, the Alpha Legion book from the Horus Heresy series, and the other one was the Night Lord, the Soul Hunter. No, Voidstalker, the final book in the Night Lords trilogy. It had Eldar in it, and boy, do they love that word. They monkey this, monkey that.
Ooh.
Like, I mean, it's funny because you would think that they're so elegant that it would just be something they drop as like a power move. Hell no, they take every opportunity to remind every human being that that's what they are.
Oh my. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like, just when I'm starting to kind of think they're cool, I get reminded of what just snooty assholes they are.
Yeah, that's the thing. When
It's
looking
kinda-
into the Eldar, you have to be very careful at the angle at which you study them.
Yeah.
If you study them primarily from their point of view, they come out looking relatively good. But if you read books that have interactions with them, with the lower races, it paints a completely different picture.
Yeah. The lower races is kind of the key word there, isn't
It
it? That's
is.
exactly how
And
they
that
look
is
at everything
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And I believe they even refer to them as such.
else. Oh, yep. It's like in their
It is.
culture. We're fucking
But in this, but today we're going to wrap things up by talking about 2 specific groups that are outliers in this.
yes.
That's not to say that they don't view human beings as lesser beings.
Right.
Some of them, in fact, don't,
Right.
though. So it's a mixed bag with these groups of both, I think.
Yeah.
But the point is that not all Eldar are like this, and they have the propensity to be different
Right. And they'll find their reasons to work with.
human beings, and even try to really help them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But again, this is Warhammer. Everything comes with an asterisk and a but. The Eldar, no matter who they are, whether they be the Harlequins, which we're going to talk about, or the Yanari, or the Craft World Eldar, or the Dark Eldar, every iteration, they only will help up to a point at which they think that it's not beneficial to them anymore.
Right.
And then they will pull everything out and just retreat and leave you high and dry.
Say fuck it, because the value of one Eldar life exceeds the value of a human life by like
And any other
Yeah,
race's
and
life.
anything else by like orders of magnitude.
I think it's 1,000 to 1, literally.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah.
But the Yanari, which Eric, you're going to talk about, they had, and you know what? It's actually, now that I'm saying that, the Harlequins were there too. So these two groups had a moment that was put up or shut up, and they put up, and that was the return of the Primarch.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
That was a real time where you were going to have to fight and die, and both groups, the Yanari and the Harlequins, absolutely did. So it's not that they're not willing to lay down their lives.
Right.
They absolutely will, and they absolutely have.
Absolutely, but it kind of always is for something that will ultimately benefit them.
Yeah. Yes. There's not an ounce of altruism in them.
Even in the Yanari's case.
No.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's get into it. So who are the Harlequins and the Yanari? I'll go first because the Yanari are kind of the most up and coming, kind of new to the map guys. We cover, if you listen to our Imperium volume 4?
Perhaps 4. Yeah.
I believe 4 was the last one.
That was kind of us getting up to date with the Imperium.
Correct.
So that would have been.
So I believe it was volume 4. We talked about the Yanari. So this is going to have some repeats, but you know what? Everything's got to be completed and it's got to be in there one way or another. So we're going to do it again. And I'm sure Eric's going to come across some shit that I didn't, because I approached it largely from the point of view of the Imperium.
Right. Which had that impact on them through the Primarch. And I'm going to be covering more of the background stuff. So I'm actually not going to touch on that so much.
Right. And I can touch on it at the end just to do just to have it in where people.
Yeah.
But we'll begin with the Harlequins. So who are the Harlequins? The Harlequins are actually, in my opinion, they're the part of the Eldar minus the Yanari, because the Yanari haven't been around long enough to, I think, really settle in as a major player yet. We'll see what happens with them. But the Harlequins, in my opinion, are the faction that the Eldar bring to 40K that is uniquely 40K. I think the Imperium, for the Imperium, it's the Primarchs and the Space Marines. For the Orcs, we'll find out because they're next. But anyway, I'm sure there's like a one thing about actually, in my opinion, it might just be the whole Orc race because it's so uniquely different. But each faction seems to have a thing that is uniquely, even more so than the rest of it, 40K. And for the Eldar proper, I think it's the Harlequins. So who are the Harlequins? The Harlequins are the special forces and historian / performers of the Eldar. They're named. They're also known as the Ghosts in the Webway. They were hiding in the Webway when the whole birth of Slaanesh went down.
That whole Eye of Terror thing.
Yep, that tiny little fuck up. Their god, the god that they worship, is known as the Laughing God. His name is Sigurath. Sigurath. Yeah. Cegorach.
I liked your pronunciation.
Sigurath.
Yeah. And or the Laughing God.
The Laughing God. But he was the last one to go up against Slaanesh in the battle, and he was the only one proper to survive.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he retreated into the Webway and took his followers with him.
Okay.
And they vanished. And what happened during this time, nobody seems to really know. But at some point, and there's documents of the battle, I didn't write it down because I found it at the last minute, but that's okay. We'll probably revisit this. They just showed up, and they were just this force that just came out of nowhere and just decimated this group of demons. And the Eldar were like, who the fuck are you? And then we're the Harlequins, and this is what we do. They're like, okay. So whatever went down at that time made them incredibly lethal. And it seems like the Harlequins are stronger and faster than even the regular Eldar. They seem to be endowed with their god somehow. Like it imbued them with some sort of strength.
Okay.
So they are, as I said, they're warriors and they're fighters, but they're also historians and performers. They're like Circus Olay is a good comparable human performance.
Yeah, like all that
acrobatic storytelling,
really flashy.
With opera, where it's like the music and the movement is telling the story, and the color, not the actual like what they're speaking. Although I believe they also speak and sing. I think it's like a whole performance.
Wow!
But they're very physical and like operatic and flying through the air and somersaulting. And all the while, they're wearing these things called hollow suits.
Hollow suits.
And the picture of them will be right around here somewhere in this general area. And it looks multicolored. It looks like a patchwork quilt of all these different colors, these yellows and reds and purples and greens. And it looks like a bodysuit. There's another type of Eldar that has this, but it's a coat. It's like a trench. I like it. It's a trench coat with a hood. They're called the solitaires. We'll get to them.
Solitaires. Okay.
But anyway, what this bodysuit does, it's very tight fitting. It doesn't have any armor in it. And this is also what they wear into battle. And what this does is it's movement activated. The faster you move and the more acrobatic you move, the more intense this effect becomes. But it actually renders everything inside of a 20-foot radius of the person into holographic, brightly colored fractal patterns.
Oh, what? It's like a.
Imagine, like when you look into a kaleidoscope. Imagine that in a 3D space. Okay. So imagine a kaleidoscope, and those firecrackers that you set off, and they bounce around on the ground while burning bright colors. Imagine that type of movement, but it looks like a 3D version of the fractal pattern inside of a kaleidoscope.
Holy crap.
But what it actually is this souped up, methed out Eldar with swords and this thing called the Harlequin's Kiss.
Ooh.
And we'll get to that. But the more they move and the more they dance, the brighter and more intense this pulsing fractal 3D image becomes. And that's what they're like in battle.
Oh my God. That sounds overwhelming.
It is. It's completely overwhelming. And when they stop moving, it then renders them like, it then copies the surrounding background and then renders them invisible.
Oh my God. You gotta be kidding me.
No.
That's crazy. So they could just suddenly be there like disco ball times a million and then
correct.
Gone.
And then also while they're doing that, they have on these masks. Now the masks are very old school stage performer masks, the really elongated jaw and big hooked nose. They're like that, but that's what they look like. But what they do is they psychically render the image of whatever your utmost fear is. And it's a constantly morphing mass of whatever that is. Whoa. And so that's the only thing that's not rendered by this suit. So when you see it coming at you, you see this face amongst all this fractal pattern.
Holy shit.
And it's whatever your utmost fear is what it portrays back at you.
Oh, that's terrifying. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's got to be an intense.
Seriously. Wow.
It's like a demonically bladed Tinkerbell that's just bouncing all over the fucking battlefield, just slicing and dicing and hitting things with this Harlequin's Kiss. Now, I've mentioned this twice. This is a weapon that is exclusively to the Harlequins. Nobody else uses this, not other Eldar. I believe it's actually kind of forbidden. Like, you're not allowed to.
Wow.
And what this is a giant tube with a point on the end that is attached to their wrist and their forearm, and it goes out about probably 4 or 5 feet. Okay. It's pretty decently long when it's fully extended, and it's basically a giant hypodermic needle. And what it does is it's got where it's hooked onto their forearm, it has a tank of liquid. And what this is, it's called monofilament wire.
Monofilament wire.
Right. Okay, so put our suspension of disbelief hats on, people. This is one of those things, but this is pretty fucking cool. And what it does is this liquid, it's actually liquid razor wire.
Liquid razor wire.
And the amount of liquid that it contains equals to about 100 meters or 328 feet worth of this wire.
Okay.
And the reason why it's kept liquid is because it's so sharp. If it was kept solid, it would actually shred through.
Their arm and everything.
So it's got some sort of when it goes out, it cools it, which turns it into the wire.
Holy shit.
And then when they retract it, it heats it back up and turns it back into a liquid again.
Melts it.
That's the best that I can
Cool.
I'm filling in some gaps because I don't think they've ever actually gone into exact detail how this works, right? But this is kind of how it would have to work.
But it's like liquid when it's contained.
Yep.
and
And then
it's cooled fast enough
to become this
to-
razor wire.
Whoa.
And so what? And it also has an engine.
nuts.
It has a motor, some sort of motor to it, or
Okay.
it's movable by some way. And so what happens is they punch through whatever armor or just you
with the needle,
with the needle, and then they explode out this monofilament wire, all 100-meter of it, and it goes inside your body because it's already punched through, or it can penetrate enough to go into your body, and then all of it spins.
Oh, like a blender.
Yeah. Well, so I found
Or-
2 different accounts, actually. They said it spins, and the other one uses the word undulation, which is more like a wavy octopus
Oh.
flaving.
Wow.
And so you have to remember, like, it's so sharp that it would just cut through their arm just sitting there. So what this does is it completely liquefies everything inside of them, and then it just retracts back and they pull the blade out.
And this happens like really fast.
This is in quarters of a second,
Holy
blinks of an
shit.
eye.
You're alive, and then you're suddenly dead.
Yeah. Yes. It's a horrible way to die, but a quick one.
But real quick, yeah, because you're a milkshake on the inside.
But also, I can imagine scenarios like, imagine if you're in a tank and you have that viewport and they just shove it through there and then just let 328 feet worth of razor wire
God.
start flinging inside of the cab.
Just slice up everything inside of the.
That would be a painful way to die.
Wow. Yeah, it would, because it wouldn't be nearly as quick as if it was like
On the inside.
originating inside of your body.
Correct.
Wow, it would have to try to cut through your armor and everything. Man, you'd just have like thousands of cuts on you
Yeah.
that were.
It would be like being inside of a tornado that got caught in a barbed wire fence.
Yeah.
It would just be terrible.
Wow.
And so all of this is combined into what makes the Harlequin such a fucking nightmare.
They're fucking terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
Holy shit.
And so inside of them, they have an even bigger special forces, which is called the Solitaire. And the Solitaire is literally just a single Harlequin. Now, how this Harlequin is chosen, I've not been able to find. Let us know if you know. If you know, let me know. I want to know because I couldn't find it.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not out there.
But
I'm
help
just
us
saying,
learn.
Help us learn. Yeah, I'm interested in if there is a selection process. But they do say that it is the strongest, most powerful, and most incorruptible of all the Harlequins. And then they sacrifice their soul to Slaanesh willingly.
Whoa.
And it gives them some sort of extra power boost. Now, this is an honored position because they also serve a different purpose. We've gotten into the warrior aspect of the Harlequins, the performer and historian side of them. They travel around in what's called, it's not troops. I want to say it's troops, but it's not troops. It's,
you're right. It's troops.
Oh, I can't remember.
It's
Are you sure it's not troops?
It's not. So a troop is
a
troop is like a squad.
No,
it's
it's
an even
troops.
smaller, but they travel around in these groups. Future Eric, help me!
You know what? Fine. All right. No, I'll help. Hey, future Ben. Why don't you come on over here?
What are you doing?
Tell them.
The word I'm looking for is troops. It has always been troops. It will always be troops. My apologies to future Eric for taking up his time with this fuckery. That is all.
Very good. Thank you for that perfectly natural and spontaneous message that was not scripted for you at all. Carry on with the episode, boys.
The Solitaire joins this group at their own leisure, and they only have one job outside of battle. And these groups go around, and they go around to everybody. They go around to the Ynnari, they go around to the Craftworld Eldar, they even go to the Dark Eldar and the Homunculus to tell the tales of their history, and everybody knows that it's fucking hands off with these guys. Nobody touches them. Nobody fucks with them. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. The Homunculus won't touch them. It's not worth their trouble. Like, they don't want to start any shit with them.
Holy shit.
But the Solitaire is even more so because the Solitaire only performs in one story and only has one role.
Whoa.
And they play Slaanesh.
What?
When they tell the story of the fall of the Eldar, which is to the Eldar the most important story
I can see why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so we're gonna shout out a YouTube channel,
Okay.
Voldemort.
Voldemort.
We'll put a link to his channel, and we're gonna have his emblem, which is a servitor skull. We're gonna have it right here. He is awesome. He's one you're gonna hear us talk about quite a bit, and we're not cloud seeking or anything like that. The guy is just awesome when it comes to narration. He's got a voice that is just whew.
Yeah.
And
seriously.
he's a fabulous personality. The guy does it for the love of it. He just launched a new channel that's talking about dinosaurs and natural history. So we'll put a link to that too. Because he would want us to do that. So we're going to do that for him. But look up his thing on Harlequins. He actually narrates their performance of this story.
Oh, that's cool.
And
his voice
is so good for it.
Holy cow.
But it really puts in perspective just how serious the Eldar take the story.
Ooh,
and so the solitaire plays Slaanesh. And this is all they do. And it's considered to be a role that terrifies everybody. And that makes sense. Talking to a solitaire, they say, is tantamount to the worst death that you can imagine. Like, they just have this aura of awfulness to them, but it's this weird respect as well.
Right. It's a reverence because they're taking on something that no one else would dare to do.
Right.
Really, because, man, when you work in theater, like, theater belongs to Slaanesh. Like, you know what I mean?
Correct.
Like,
she's the god of performance.
So you're already walking a fine line that you have to keep your mind real straight with. And then you just start taking on the role of the very thing that you are trying to keep your balance against.
Right. And these things, and they are so if the Harlequins are like 50 Eldar to 1, right? Then the Solitaire are 50 Harlequins to 1. Yeah. They're just these indomitable forces because they're blessed by their god and probably Slaanesh.
Wow.
So they wear instead of a hollow suit, they wear like the hollow trench coat that's got a hood, and they wear a mask that is the mask of Slaanesh. I would be incredibly interested to know what they look like under those, because I bet there's some corruption going on there.
Man.
I bet there's
you don't see what they look like.
I don't think anybody does.
That is so cool. That has like vibes of like kind of what really, really ancient shamanism used to be, because it was like that person was the one kind of stepping into the kind of quote unquote other world or underworld,
right,
and living like half there on behalf of the community. Like it was honored because it was a sacrifice, and then they also were kind of like, you know, scary to the, you know, their people sometimes. Like,
and it also plays on like the classic tragedy heartstrings. Like you see a lot of echoes of, say, Phantom of the Opera with that, right? The monster underneath the performance.
Yeah.
That kind of thing always really gives a sense of tragedy,
right?
Because they are hiding and trying to portray this outer thing that they're not.
Yeah.
But the solitaires definitely. I'm going to look more into them and find out. I wonder if there's any named ones and any good stories there. I'm gonna see if I can find enough to do a chapter on the solitaires by themselves.
Ooh, okay.
Because there's some cool stuff there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in them.
It sounds very neat. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So that's the Harlequins. I like them. I think they're really cool. I'm going to touch on what part they played with the resurrection of Gilliman here at the end. We'll touch on that. I'll do a 30,000 foot overview. I'll do a speed run, but I'll try to make it at least a little fun. But with that, Eric, why don't you tell us about the Ynnari?
All right. So the Ynnari are a relatively new, I'll call it movement, because it's pretty much a religion.
We would call it a cult.
A cult, right? Yeah, we would. And I guess what I'll do is I'll start with a little bit of background that kind of like why the Ynnari are doing what they're doing, because they're goal oriented. They have a very distinct goal. So, but some background here: the craft world Eldar, I guess, like overall believed that. So it sounds like they kind of believed that eventually all of the infinity circuits would birth a new god for them, and that it would happen when all of the remaining Eldar souls had gone into the infinity circuits.
Oh my God.
So they'd have to be like wiped out, basically.
So can you imagine, like, the Yanari are kind of dabbling with the Imperium, right?
Uh-huh.
And they have the Mechanicum. What do you think the Mechanicum's reaction to a god being birthed from the circuitry
of like ships, like
Yeah,
massive
ships?
that already
That
have
would,
an
to
intelligence
them,
of their
I mean,
own.
I don't, yeah.
Holy cow.
I don't know how they would view that.
Yeah.
It would either be like watching their god be born, or it'd be like watching, I don't know,
Like-
Satan crawl out of the ground.
Like the Antichrist.
Yeah.
just come.
That would.
Oh, that's a good thought. That's a cool idea.
I hope we live long enough for Games Workshop to actually get there.
It might happen in like the next century or so. You
It
never
might.
know.
It might.
Holy cow, that's a cool thought.
Yeah.
So apparently that's what most Eldar seemed to believe. And then this entity that would be born, like, would be the challenger to Slaanesh.
It would be
who
the
eventually kill
anti-Slaanesh.
Slaanesh, yeah. So thus kind of saving the Eldar, and they'd be reincarnated basically as this entity that's been apparently growing in the warp.
So I'm going to show a bit of my age. The only thing I can picture is, do you remember I'm going to segue off this hardcore, but it's fine. Do you remember the Val Kilmer Batman, the Batman Forever with Jim Carrey? And
Wow, we are way out. Okay.
we're going to go
okay,
out on a limb, but
okay.
I'll circle
Yes,
it back. I promise.
I know the movie you're talking
Trust me,
about.
with the pictures that are going to be right here and here, you'll get what I'm getting at.
Okay. Oh no.
So, Two-Face has the two chicks in the background. One's like all leather and nasty, and then the other one's the white with the feathers.
Yeah,
It's
like
like the
Sugar
two
and
Eldar
Spice or
gods
something.
next to each other. There's Slaanesh and there's the Inari god. They're both into sex somehow, but one's trying to play it heavenly.
Oh my gosh.
That image just popped into my head, and so now I have to
And
share it.
there you have it. Now we've shared it with you, and you're welcome. For
You
that.
can. I'm going to wait with bated breath to watch the analytics of people just dive bombing the fuck out of this video at that point.
Oh my god.
Abandoned ship.
We're leaving now.
Anyway, new god.
So that's the theory. There will be a new god once there are no more Eldar. Great plan, right?
I mean, I'm not horribly against it.
Yeah. But there's some Eldar that really didn't like that plan.
Well, I mean, yeah, they don't have a great history of birthing gods.
Right. They want to do it again. That's their idea.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm going to start at the end of my notes.
Makes
with
sense.
An Eldar named Eldrad Uthrain, who is actually connected to Craftworld Uthway.
Okay.
I believe he was of some authority there. I didn't look deep enough to find out, I think. But he was...
yeah, I imagine. His name is... I think it's named after him.
So this guy had a plan to awaken the death god Ynned.
Ynned.
Yeah, Ynnead, which
Ynned.
Ynned.
I believe the most consistent pronunciation I've heard was Ynned.
Very well. Henceforth, that shall be how I pronounce it.
And
Yep.
listen, we'll change. Help us out if we're getting it wrong.
Right. Also known as the Whispering God. He wanted to wake him up prematurely through a ritual on a crystal moon called Koharia.
Boy, that sounds like all bad. Nothing good happens when you wake something up early.
Yeah, exactly. And another problem was that this moon was owned by the Imperium of Man.
Yeah, that'll put a bunch in your knickers.
Yeah, so they didn't like that. And there was this big fight, and the Death Watch came in and really disrupted the ritual.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the Death Watch are the enforcement wing of the Imperium, of the Inquisition. I mean, they are selected from all the different Space Marine chapters, and each chapter has to serve a certain amount of guys up to the Inquisition. They work for them, and then when their time is done, they can go back home.
Okay.
That's the Death Watch.
There we go. And they
30,000 foot overview. We'll do a chapter on them because they're actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's the only time you get to see like all of the tactics of the different Space Marine chapters and things all rolled into one group.
Ooh, that will be fun.
Yeah, so we'll get to them for sure.
Nice. So they fucked things up for this poor guy, and the ritual wasn't really completed, but it kind of partially succeeded, which we'll see in a moment, because that's kind of what takes us out of the background into more of what's going on. There is a Eldar by the name of Yvrain, and she had quite an adventurous life. She walked many of the paths, from like warrior, warlock, stuff
Sure.
like that.
Well
And then-
lived.
Yeah, but eventually became an outcast and wound herself up as a gladiator in Camarage.
Ooh, which is the home of the Dark Eldar.
Yes.
That had to be a shitty life.
Yeah. And
She fucked up somewhere.
I know.
Unless she chose that. I mean, it might be some sort of pilgrimage.
I don't know. She chose to be a corsair.
Okay, which is
slash
a pirate.
outcast, yeah. And then something got fucked up with the webway. And
Okay, so
eventually
she was captured. Yeah, that was not willing. Okay.
No, I didn't.
Most people don't willingly bring themselves to the Dark Eldar, but there are crazy fucks
Yeah.
out there.
And apparently she did pretty well for a while as a gladiator, but was eventually just kind of worn down in a final fight and was slain. And this timed up pretty well with the failed ritual that our boy Eldrad Uthrin was trying to pull
Oh,
off.
okay. So the moment they tried,
Yeah.
she died the moment that ritual went
There
tits
was
up.
enough of the Whispering God awake at that point to resurrect her. Right there in the middle of Camarage.
Ooh.
Which
I'm surprised the homunculus were like, bring me the girl.
Yeah. I don't know that they had a chance because then there was that caused a disjunction, which is when the warp melds with the webway and allows all sorts of demon fuckery to go down. So there was a bunch of chaos.
There was a demon incursion right in the middle of Camarage.
Yeah. And
can you imagine? I bet the homunculus were like, what is that? What is that?
What is going on?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who brought that into the house? Take it back where you found it.
Yeah, so it sounds like absolute chaos. She then escaped with the help of he's noted as the Visarch. He has a name, I didn't write it down because he's mostly referred to as the Visarch.
The Visarch.
And he's an old friend of hers. He knew her way back when she was just
a
following
wee
the path
mortal.
of the warrior,
Yeah.
he taught her the sword, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey.
he's like basically a priest of a shrine
Sure.
to warrior stuff.
He's one of those the Lost.
Yeah.
They are the ones we mentioned in the previous episode. They're the ones that follow a path too long and can't become addicted to that path. And so rather than condemning them for it, the Eldar have just created permanent positions for them, teaching others the way to do that path.
Okay.
So that's this guy.
Well,
They're called the Lost.
The Lost. Well, that's interesting because he did end up for Yvraine breaking his path, which was pretty unconventional. So
Right.
She pulled him out of some deep.
Yeah. So there you go.
dedication.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. When she ran off, basically to become an outcast and a corsair, that he, you know what I mean? He had such a connection with her, it really fucked him up. And when she turned up in Camarage, he went there, and I think he posed as an incubus or something. So it broke him out of that deeply entrenched path then. So anyway, he ended up there and helped her escape and kind of joined this party of, there's about 4 or 5 of these guys that I have to talk about each one because they're so impactful to the movement, because that's kind of what got the movement going.
Of course. Right. Well, I mean,
Ynnari.
it's a group.
Yeah. And so they have this goal. They need to, they want to wake up the death god, the whispering god, all the way without sacrificing all of those Eldar lives.
Well, I mean,
and what they found out they could do is there exists 5 crone swords. And I'll get into those. What is a crone sword? Crone sword is a weapon that was forged by Vol, according to legend, but was made from the 5 fingers of Morai Heg, which is another one of their gods. Sounds kind of crony, right?
Yeah.
She tricked. There's just a lot of gods attached to these swords because she had tricked Cain. Is it
Calamenture Cain?
Yeah, into cutting off her hand, which was then gathered up by Vol, who made these weapons. Why did she?
She had to trick him into doing that.
I know, and I don't know what she did to trick him. But why she wanted to do it was so that she could drink her own blood and obtain its wisdom. Interesting, right?
See, I always go to I always go back to where they're not actually gods. They're technology that gains sentience. So when I hear that,
It sounds kind of like what would she have been? Oh, what would she have been?
I don't know. Like
I don't know enough about her.
I don't know.
But she produced 5 basically swords of immense power from that. There was some sort of sacrifice then. So something got cut off of something.
So
and was
okay,
given to the forge guy.
I'm gonna reach. What if she was like some sort of defense system, and Cain was like was some sort of offensive system,
Right.
and she had a lock on her of some sort because of AI getting too power,
Right.
whatever reason the Eldar would do that, and then they were under attack, and she convinced Cain to help destroy that whatever that lock was,
Okay.
so that she can essentially double her own intelligence.
And there you have it. We have a theory.
I have
Yeah.
no idea. I mean, so it can be any fucking thing, but
Right.
it's cool. I find it cool to speculate.
Well, yeah, and I want to. We should do an episode. I keep saying it. We'll do a chapter on their gods, and we'll really explore this idea.
Sure,
of,
we'll try.
what the potential. Like,
I think
thing
what
was
we
that the
should
god
do is
was.
we should look at each of the gods ourselves, and then
Yeah.
we should each come with a kind of a
Kind of
hypothetical
theory,
of what we
yeah.
think they were
They might
before they
be.
were gods.
Right, because it is very distinctly like Eldar mythology that these guys exist in,
Correct.
and it doesn't always match history.
No.
Yeah, at least not as the Imperium and other races.
No, and even
Yeah.
even the Eldar, I think, are kind of sometimes they're willing to kind of say like, well,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah.
ish.
But anyway, we digress.
Absolutely.
So these crone swords were produced, and apparently if they were all gathered together in one place in real space and a ritual was performed, it would birth Ynid to his full power so that he could take on and slay Slaanesh. And then henceforth, all of the souls of the Eldar would go to him.
Yeah, but then I have to wonder. I'm like, so then would we trade out a pleasure god for a death god?
Yeah, basically.
Is that a plus?
For them, it kind of is. Like, I read something that said that an afterlife with him would be basically like heaven, hell, and purgatory all at once for their souls.
Yeah, that was when they were dealing with him before he would go into the warp and be.
Yeah. Right.
I
don't know.
I see flaws. I see flaws, you snooty bastards. I see flaws. Anyway.
Oh, these crone swords, I'm going to go down a list, and it's going to be fun listening to me try to pronounce this shit. So there is first the Kavir, the Sword of Sorrows, which is wielded by your brain.
Okay.
So
she's got that one.
Yep. And with it, it turns her victims into ash. That's its big power.
Okay.
The next sword is Asuvar, Sword of Silent Screams.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's wielded by the Visarch, who I mentioned earlier.
Her second in command, I'm assuming.
And but before that, it was held in Craft World Beltan.
Beltan.
Yeah. And it apparently absorbs the life essence out of the people it kills.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sucks.
Fun, right?
Mm.
It sucks. It kind of does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Dad joke snuck one in, huh? Next we
Bastard.
have Vilith Zar. I'm just going to own these mispronunciations. from
It's
now on.
fine.
The Sword of Souls, wielded by, Yin Karn. Oh, yeah, Yin Karn, who we'll get to in a moment.
Okay.
It is apparently a shape-shifting sword, and it's apparently the most powerful of the blades. Although I couldn't find specifically what it was. But
if it's shape-shifting, then can you call it a sword?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what shape-shifting really means. I didn't get that far with it. But this guy, Yin Karn, is actually an avatar of the Whispering God.
Oh, cool.
Ynid. Yeah, Ynid. Thank you. He was birthed by Yvraine during a ritual that they did on Beltan when it was there was a battle. There was a battle going on, and a lot of their souls were sacrificed during their already dead souls in the Infinity Circuit were sacrificed into this ritual that brought about Yin Karn, and he's, like I said, an avatar, an incarnation of the Whispering God Ynid.
I bet he's a blast at parties. He just spells personality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking hell. Can you fucking imagine a death god wrapped up in the ego of an Eldar? Oh my god. I'm glad they're on our side ish.
Yeah. Well, he did save the remainder of the Infinity Circuit after he was born, and then he joined the adventures of Yvrain and Co.
Right. I'm actually looking forward to reading. I bet there's if there's not a book centered around these guys yet, I bet it's coming. I'm actually pick it up, even though I don't really care for the Eldar
it sounds
too much.
very like kind of Lord of the Rings party-esque. Their backgrounds are really neat. Like,
it has an element of that, of Will of Time.
Yeah.
This, and that's one thing that I will say I've not thought about it until now. And it could just be, let me know if I don't know about a story like this, because it's entirely possible, and I'd even say likely. Warhammer 40K does seem to be missing kind of that ragtag group of
yeah, doesn't it? And these guys are almost satisfying that.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit. I'm
interesting.
definitely getting tones
They're
of that.
starting to get there. Yeah. Because like the Visarch, like he's of course like a dedicated guardian now to you.
Right. He's the old grumpy warrior.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Who's like mentor and protector.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's oh my god, what was his name?
From Game of Thrones. I remember his house sigil of like bear. Mormont?
Mormont.
Is that who we're thinking of?
The one that protected the psycho bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mormont.
Yeah. Mormont.
Yeah. That's his last name, at least.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter, because no matter how awesome those characters were, that show ended like ass.
I know, like enough to apparently erase my brain on it. Holy
it
crap.
should.
Yeah.
So space better used elsewhere.
Indeed. Like here.
Yep. Anyway, but it is awesome that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And like I said, guys, if there's a story like that we don't know about, tell us about it, because I'll go check it out.
I would definitely pick that up. Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued, and I'll check those out.
For sure.
So that's the first 3 Crone Swords. There is another one.
How many is there all
there
total?
Were 5.
5, and
Yes.
they've got 3.
And we've got 3. Then they came across, so they actually have this in their possession now, the Spear of Twilight. Why is it called that? I think it's a relic that existed in the lore before the Ynnari were introduced.
Okay.
Because it's described as Yvrain showing up and revealing its true shape.
And it's a sword.
And it's one of the Crone Swords.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
A little bit of retcon, a little bit of smudging, but that's okay.
Maybe.
That's all right.
My speculation. Yeah.
That smells like it to me.
Yeah.
That's not
it
terrible.
keeps it- yeah. And it is now wielded by a guy named Prince. Oh, fuck me. Prince Uriel, I think. Yriel.
Uriel.
Yeah. Uriel, who's a man of Eldar, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Eldar of important rank on Craft World. Why do I try? Yinden. Yep, there you go.
All right.
All right.
I like it.
And actually during a battle there, he was slain, and then Yvrain shows up, makes the Spear of Twilight reveal itself as a Crone Sword, and then stabs him with it to revive him. And he is resurrected, takes up the sword, and it sounds like he joins the cause from there.
Black Knight approves.
Yeah.
It's just a flesh wound.
Tis just a flesh wound. And now I've mentioned 4.
Sure.
We don't know the name of the 5th.
Of course
it is
not.
an unnamed Crone Sword, and it is currently held in the Palace of Slaanesh.
Of course it is.
Yep. It was taken by a fucking keeper of secrets called Shalaxi Hellbane, and he took it there as a big fuck you. So we don't know if they're going to even be able to get that fucking thing. And they need all 5 swords in order to complete
but
the
with
ritual.
what they managed to do for the Imperium, can you imagine if they get the Imperium to help them lead an incursion into
Ooh,
fuck
into the palace.
It's Valdar, you son of a bitch.
What?
So Constantinian Valdar, who is basically the Primarch of the Custodes, he has shown back up as what's called the King in Yellow or the King in Gold.
Oh.
And he's setting up an Imperium inside of the warp.
Jesus. What? Is he nuts?
Yes. He's a Primarch of the Custodes. Of course he's nuts.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Holy crap. Wow.
So they could use that as a launching point into the Palace of
Like an
Slanesh
anchor.
to get the. Now there's some story arcs.
That would be cool. Holy shit.
Can you imagine if Games Workshop just came out one year and they're like, folks, we're taking the story into the web into the warp.
That would be nuts.
It's like, excuse me, because almost all of the story happens in our world, not inside of the warp.
Right.
But, like if you were to like, nope, we're spending a large amount of time inside of the warp. It's like, oh shit.
That would be a crazy time. That would be cool to have a series of books in there, and that's a good way to do it. Like to get them worked in, and now the Eldar definitely have cause to go in there, which would be scary enough. Because that's kind of the cool thing about the Unari is their message is like it's transfactional. Like they have people coming in from all Eldar, like different craft worlds, from Harlequins, from Dark Eldar.
Oh yeah, yes, there are. Yeah. The Unari. I read something where the Unari are teaching them how to sustain themselves. The Dark Eldar.
Yeah, without
torturing.
Right. So that they can so everybody's kind of like they have a bit of everybody joining the cause. So
and then they did something big for the Imperium.
Yes. Tell us more.
Okay, so the Unari are basically responsible for the return of Gilliman. They found his body, or rather the Imperium found his body, and the Unari said, if you take him, because we're connected to the Whispering God, if you bring him to one of our worlds and you allow us to perform this ritual on him, we can bring him back. And it took an Inquisitor, I think, kidnapping his body and doing it. But what it amounted to is this giant, and again, go back to our Imperium Volume 4 if you want the complete rundown, but just this mad rush of Gilliman from this world with the Unari all the way to Terra. And it involves, you have the Ultramarines, the Unari fighting all the way. You have the Grey Knights because they come in because of the Inquisition, and they're fighting Chaos because Chaos is trying to stop Gilliman from getting to Earth. Yep. They get Gilliman's party gets taken hostage and prisoner by the Dark Eldar, and then they are then subsequently rescued from that prison by the Harlequins, who then join the troop, who manage to get them to Luna, which is the moon, where they're then intercepted by the Thousand Sons and Magnus the Red.
Holy crap.
So now you have demons, Magnus the Red, Dark Eldar, Homunculus, all charging, and the Black Legion charging at Gilliman, the Harlequins, the Unari, the Grey Knights, Titans, the Ultramarines, and they're all just clashing on Luna.
On the fucking moon.
On the moon.
Of Terra.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Until such time that Gilliman manages to make his escape and he gets back to the throne, banishes Magnus, and everybody kind of retreats back to their corners for a while just to see what the fuck happens with a Primarch sitting on the throne.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an intense story.
Holy crap.
And so there's more to it. That's the real quick rundown, but our Volume 4 has that on there. There's other videos. I encourage you to find as many videos on that particular story as you can, because it is an amazing story to be heard told multiple different ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Different perspectives on that shit going down. Because I'll bet that was a big, big, big event.
I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah, just like
it had everything.
The stories that would come out of stuff like that.
Yeah. It like I said, it has everybody, and it has the Mechanicum, it has Titans, it has demons, it has Harlequins, it has Unari, it has Grey Knights, it has everything. Absolutely. 2 different Primarchs.
Yeah. He came back with a bang.
Yeah. And so we're not where the Eldar are right now is anybody's guess, because I'm not really sure what the craft world's reaction to all this is going to be.
Yeah, seriously. Because I think it could be speculated that the intention is like with Gilliman in particular is like to strengthen that hold, as because they love to manipulate people into different moves. You know what I mean? And
they do.
Like they'll absolutely put you on track to fight something for them as a distraction. That's kind of what they did on that crystal moon. They talked other people into launching an attack on the actual planet as a diversion.
Oh, I'm sure
they could attack and take that moon for their ritual. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're working towards something.
Yeah.
And being friends with the Imperium has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And I'll bet my vote, they're probably going to try to use the Imperium as a meat shield.
Yeah, help
That's what I
help
think.
us get to the Palace of Slanesh.
Yep. So they can and they don't care what happens probably to the Imperium beyond that. I would.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably right.
Yeah. Even like these cool characters like your variant, if I want her to like us, damn it, but I don't think
know.
she really.
We'll just have to see if
Yeah.
we'll have to who knows? Somebody's got to break the mold, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not. This is the Grim Dark, you know.
I know.
Sometimes just shit stays shit.
I know. It's like I don't want to hope.
I know.
I don't want to hope for a genuine like.
But we're here for it either way.
I
'Cause
know.
Either way,
absolutely.
it's either going to be good, bad, or it's going to be bad, bad.
Yeah. Either way.
Yep.
Either way, I'm yours. Drag me through it. Whatever.
Yep. And so I think with that, we're going to wrap up our look at the Eldar.
Yeah. There we go.
At least for now,
Yeah.
nothing's ever permanent in this because things are always developing. There's always new things to learn and discover. And so we will revisit them when we want.
So we'll be having chapters on them and
The different things about them.
Yep.
May
find that we find cause to do a volume 2, but that would be a pretty big decision to make.
Yeah, that would. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
foresee
that we
another. I don't see another one of those, but certainly chapters.
Yeah, definitely chapters because there's more specific stuff. But I think we've hopefully given you guys enough that if you do find that you are intrigued by the Eldar.
Yes, please do
find
not.
more.
Do not let our kind of boo-pooing this dampen your. Look into it the same as you would any other. Like if we give it a glowing review, look into it. If we're not particularly interested, look into it with the exact same amount of enthusiasm as you would something that we're not particularly partial to.
Right.
Because just because we don't find it as interesting doesn't mean that you won't.
Right.
Or that you will.
Something in Warhammer for everybody. And we've got the something. We both had our something.
We both found our something.
Just wasn't the Eldar.
It wasn't.
But it might be yours.
Yeah. And
there's
so
some really cool stuff.
So we definitely don't want to dissuade anybody from taking a look at them.
If you like the more fantasy feel to your Warcraft, Warhammer. Good Lord, Warcraft. Sorry about that.
But
you'll definitely enjoy them.
I think you know what, and I think that might be kind of one of the things that I'm kind of tough with them is they are the fantasy version. And I'm a little bit more into the sci-fi horror.
Right. And that's, they're not so much like that. Their craft worlds have like very natural environments within them. Like I'm imagining trees and
forests.
In there. And they're very magical and,
Yeah. So, but anyway, give them a check out.
Yeah.
Take a look at them. We'll be visiting them again.
Yeah.
In various ways.
Definitely.
So with that, let's just get a few things wrapped up. Make sure you follow us on all of our things. What is it?
Yeah. So at Cult Talk Net is
there we
where
go.
you'll find a lot of our other, series, Cult of Campbell, Weird Shit. We exist on podcasts now, like Spotify and tons of others.
Right.
It's a Google search away, Cult of Lore.
We are no longer just on YouTube.
Yeah, so you can listen to us when you're on the go. And
But if you are listening to us on YouTube, there's a little bell down there.
Ooh.
And a thumbs up. So hit subscribe and like, and make sure you set your notifications to on because with our channel for Cult of Lore, you also get multiple other shows. And if you don't like them, you don't have to listen to them.
Yeah, this is true.
You get Cult of Campbell. Which is all things Bruce Campbell and Evil Daddy. You've got Weird Shit, which is Ian and his fucking weird history, weird stories,
like
weird fans. Yeah.
Super weird, very interesting.
We're going to have
definitely gives you stuff to talk about.
We're going to have another show dropping before too long. I don't know if it's been announced yet or not.
Ooh, sounds like
okay, it has. I'm getting the nod. So Cult of Conspiracy will be coming out with Bailey and Cult Talks Conspiracy. Oh my. Cult Talks Conspiracy. That's going to be with Bailey and Ty. I will probably be guest appearing on that randomly at certain times, but I don't like aluminum foil that much, so I'm going to sit that one out.
But if you do, it's going to be the show for you.
Yeah, they're going to be covering. I think they're launching with Roswell. Don't quote me on that one. I'm getting another nod. I'm 2 for 1.5.
2 for 1.5 is pretty good out of 2.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So check us out on all the things. Make sure you follow us. We're working on so I want to give a quick shout out to our music guy. And I'm using that term incredibly loosely. We've never spoken to this individual. We've tried.
We have.
If you guys know, his name is Adrian Von Ziegler. We're gonna put we're gonna link it. We link him every time.
Every time his channel is linked in the description.
We'll if he's got a symbol for his channel, we'll put it up there just to give it a little extra push.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have noticed that you guys really like not just the quotes, but the music for the intro and outro for Cult of Lore.
Yes, which it is absolutely amazing music.
Yes, it is.
So
that's
the guy that Ben did pick that
I
out.
found that and dove on it like Snyder's Hounds.
So.
But go check him out. And you can get the full song there.
Yes.
You can buy it, listen to it. He has other, if you like that song, he's got tons and they're all really good.
Yeah. So seriously. So if you like just the very short portion of
my God, we use
20
or 30 seconds of a 4-minute song.
Not much, and it's a great song. Like
it is.
Yeah.
You're going to be hearing it in its entirety at some point.
Right.
We're working on something there.
Something special there. But yeah, definitely go support that guy because holy cow.
Yeah, because
he makes he doesn't even know it, but he makes our intro what it is. Like it
gives it that gravitas that without it just wouldn't be the same.
Right.
And if we ever get to talk to him, I'm going to tell him how great that has been. And we've certainly seen a great reaction. So to translate that love into some views and whatever he's after over there on his channel, give him some of that love too.
Absolutely, because he's the one earning that. That's for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to give an extra shout out to. We were noticing that music was doing good, and it has been doing good. So we wanted to try to pass that all along to the guy that actually created the music. He deserves it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to wrap it up. I've been selling you on stuff a little too long, so we're going to get the hell out of here. Stay tuned. Next time, we're actually going to be covering... I'm not telling you. But it's not Eldar. It's not something we've talked much about, if at all. So it's going to be a chapter. Jerry's going to be with us.
Woo!
Daniel and Dan might be with us. We don't know.
It's maybes.
It's a whole lot of maybes for them. But anyway, until then, I'm Ben.
I'm Eric.
And guys, thanks for joining us and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.
Bye.